After 5 years of marriage, Vanessa brought her male assistant home. I had planned to surprise her. Instead, I walked in on them wrapped in bathrobes, locked in a slow, tender kiss. They didn't even flinch. Just stood there, tangled together like a scene from a romance movie I never signed up for. I kept my voice steady. I want a divorce. That's when the assistant's face crumpled. His voice cracked like a teenager caught sneaking out. "Mr. West, please don't be mad. I was just here to have Ms. Sterling sign some papers. I got caught in the rain and borrowed the shower, that's all." Vanessa reached over, calmly patting his arm like he was some frightened pet. "It's fine. He's useless." "What's he gonna do, yell?" Julian blinked, caught off guard by her words. But then something shifted in his eyes, curiosity, maybe even a little thrill. He looked up, letting his gaze drift over me, top to bottom, like he was taking mental notes. "Really?" he said slowly. "Because the way Mr. West is looking at me right now, kinda terrifying." Vanessa chuckled and gave his ass a playful squeeze. "He won't do a thing. Let's keep going." By the 5th year of our marriage, Vanessa had stopped pretending. She didn't even bother hiding it anymore, acting like that right in front of me. I watched them fool around, whispering, touching, laughing like I wasn't even there. And whatever was left of my feelings for her, whatever tiny ember still flickered, finally died. Nearly an hour later, once they'd had their fun, Vanessa strolled back into the room, smiling like nothing had happened. "What's wrong? Jealous?" I didn't answer. She walked over and slipped her delicate arm through mine like we were still some picture-perfect couple. "Relax," she said softly. "No matter how good he is, he could never take your place." She was right about one thing. No matter how many men she fooled around with, Vanessa never once mentioned divorce. Her friends used to be in awe of that. They'd ask her how she managed to keep me so obedient. So tame. So loyal. Vanessa would just laugh and tell them. "She's just pathetic, that's all." Pathetic. So that's what I was to her. All those years, our wild youth, the love we once swore was forever, reduced to a single word. I met Vanessa back in college. She was already a legend on campus, beautiful, rich, and impossible to deal with. The kind of girl who turned heads and rolled eyes in equal measure. Her family had money, but it came with baggage. Divorced parents. Her mother, Sterling, was a powerhouse in the business world, but too busy building her empire to keep tabs on a daughter spiraling into full-blown princess syndrome. By the time things settled down at home, the damage was done. Vanessa was spoiled, stubborn, and used to getting her way. Even with all her wealth, most people at school kept their distance. No one had the patience for her attitude. I figured we were from two different worlds. No way someone like her would have anything to do with someone like me. But one day, through a student club event, we ended up talking. After that, she latched on. She started asking me to lunch, new excuse every day. Holidays came with gifts, wrapped and thoughtful. She'd show up outside my classroom, just waiting. I asked her once why she was always around me. She looked me straight in the eye, totally serious. "Because you're the only one who treats me like a normal person. Everyone else either wants my money, or wants to sleep with me. You're the only one who doesn't. I just want a real friend." She said it plainly. No drama, no self-pity. Just facts. And that's when it hit me, maybe this so-called spoiled princess wasn't cruel for the sake of it. Maybe that attitude of hers was just armor. The only way she knew how to survive. After that day, Vanessa and I grew closer. Eventually, we fell into a relationship. Naturally. Almost like it was always meant to happen. Once things got serious, I went to meet her mother, Sterling. She was everything the rumors said, sharp, commanding, a woman who ran her empire like a battlefield. But that day, she surprised me. She took my hand, eyes rimmed red. "Thank you for being there for Vanessa," she said. "She's changed so much since meeting you. I can see it, she really loves you. I haven't been a good mother. But I'm begging you, stay with her. That's all I want. For her to be happy." So I stayed. I gave up grad school and joined the company instead. For Vanessa. It wasn't until later that Sterling told me the truth: she had late-stage cancer. Not much time left. The only thing she couldn't let go of was her daughter. She saw how much Vanessa had softened, how the fire in her had become something gentler. Sterling had watched, waited, and tested me. And only then did she decide to trust me with her. After she passed, Vanessa stepped up to run the company. And we got married. I stood beside her through all of it, her grief, her ambition, her legacy. We built something together, or at least I thought we did. But nearly a decade later, this is what I'm left with. In her eyes, I stayed because I was pathetic. I was pathetic enough to stick around. And the worst part? Back then, I didn't even fight back. I didn't call her out. Didn't walk away. Somewhere inside, I kept hoping. Maybe we still had a shot. But now? Now, I know better. I'm done hoping. I didn't answer Vanessa's question. I just started packing my things, one by one, into the suitcase. Then I tossed the gift I'd carefully picked out into the trash without a second thought. I hadn't even planned to come home, I was supposed to be out of town on business. But I'd left a file behind, something important. So I rushed back, gift in hand, planning to grab the folder and be gone again by morning. But instead, I walked in on Vanessa bringing Julian home. Talk about timing. I let out a long breath and closed the suitcase with a quiet click, like accepting a verdict I already knew was coming. Then I lay down on the bed, eyes open, wide awake. I didn't yell. Didn't ask her why. I was too tired for theatrics. I'm an adult. And adults don't get to scream and sob when the people they love betray them. We just absorb it. Quietly. My first thought, lying there in that same room, wasn't heartbreak, it was logistics. I had an early flight the next morning. I needed sleep. After years of marriage to Vanessa, I'd gotten used to being hurt. So used to it that it barely registered anymore. But something was different tonight. For the first time, I found myself thinking, maybe I want something else. Maybe I want out. I looked up at her, calm, almost detached, and said quietly, "Maybe we should end this." Vanessa glanced over, and then burst out laughing. "Oh, come on," she said, shaking her head. "Don't be dramatic. You remember what you said to my mom on her deathbed? I'll stay with her forever. Did that slip your mind?" Then she turned, and the look in her eyes shifted, boredom, annoyance, something colder. "If you're trying to guilt me or win some kind of sympathy prize, don't bother. Watching a man beg for affection? Kinda pathetic." And with that, she picked up her things and walked out. Through the door, I heard her voice. "Hey, don't leave yet. Come pick me up." A pause, then a scoff. What else could it be? He got jealous again. God, it's exhausting. Another pause. Her tone turned soft, almost sweet. "Emicham, you better spoil me later." I froze. Then let out a bitter laugh, pressing my palms over my ears like that could keep the words out. When I was sure she was gone, I grabbed my suitcase and headed downstairs. I didn't look back. Just found the nearest hotel and checked in. The bed was cold and stiff, the room too quiet. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my chest full of something I couldn't name. Heartbreak? Disappointment? Maybe. But more than anything, I felt relief. Relief that I no longer had to lose sleep over Vanessa's fickle affection. I didn't have to twist myself into knots trying to make sense of her love, if it was love at all. I remembered the last time I caught her with someone else. That night had already cracked me open, left pieces of me scattered in the rain, unseen and unrecoverable. It was my birthday. A light drizzle had just started outside, soft and steady. I called Vanessa. She kept declining the call. Eventually, she sent me a text. Just one character. A question mark. I texted back, still holding on to hope. Are you still working? Will you be home for dinner tonight? Still at the office. Can't make it. She'd promised we'd spend the evening together. I was disappointed, yeah. But I tried to brush it off. It's okay, I told myself. If she can't come home, I'll go to her. So I got in the car and started driving toward the office. Still trying. Still showing up. Still choosing her. Just as I pulled up to the building, I overheard two interns talking outside the company doors. No way, I'm telling you, Julian and Ms. Sterling are totally hooking up. You still don't believe me? The other girl nodded, wide-eyed. I know, right? But isn't Ms. Sterling married to Mr. West? Rich people are so messed up. They were deep in gossip, energized by scandal, until they saw me. The moment our eyes met, their expressions froze. Their voices died. One of them muttered a stiff, "Good evening, Mr. West," and then they both rushed off like they'd seen a ghost. I stood there for a moment, my face drained of color. Then I forced myself to move. Upstairs. Step by step. When I reached Vanessa's office, the light was still on. A faint glow spilled through the frosted glass, confirming what I already knew deep down. I walked closer, quiet, cautious, only to freeze just a few steps from the door. There were two silhouettes inside. Julian's voice came first, low and charged. "Ms. Sterling. I want you right here. Right now." My heart stopped. Then came Vanessa's voice, teasing, soft, laced with that familiar breathy flotation. "Then stop talking and do it already." Silence fell. I edged closer, eyes drawn to the narrow sliver of space in the doorframe. Julian reached for her, pulled her into his arms like he owned her. His hands moved freely over her body, bold and unrestrained. Vanessa struggled at first, squirming against his grip. But Julian held on, and slowly, she gave in. Her resistance melted into something else. She closed her eyes. "Turn off the lights in a minute," she murmured. "I like it better in the dark." I don't remember leaving the building. I don't remember walking out of that office, or down those stairs, or how I even made it to the street. All I remember is the feeling. Like the floor had vanished under me. All I could see in my mind was Vanessa, wrapped in another man's arms. I'd known, on some level, that she was cheating. That she'd been slipping around behind my back for a long time. I also knew she'd grown tired of me years ago. But this was the first time I truly understood, this marriage had no reason to keep going. Not anymore. I walked through the rain, the cake still in my hands. I ate it as I went, bite by bite. The frosting had melted, soaked soft by the time and the drizzle. It was too sweet, too heavy, but I kept eating anyway. Eventually I sank onto a curb, swallowing forkful after forkful, my stomach twisting with every bite. I didn't know if it was the sugar, the speed, or the grief, but pain bloomed low in my gut, sharp and curling. By the time I got home, the apartment was completely dark. Vanessa hadn't come back. The next morning, I woke with a burning fever. My head was thick, limbs heavy, skin flushed. Even in that fog, I heard her voice pull me out of sleep. "You're still not up," she said. "I'm starving. Let me rest for a bit, then make me something to eat. Vanessa hated restaurant food. Always too salty, too oily, too bland. So over the years, I'd learned to cook everything she liked, exactly how she liked it. She never had to ask twice. Even now, half delirious with fever, I said yes without thinking. I sat up slowly, every movement dragging like lead. My face was burning, it had to be crimson, but Vanessa didn't notice. Not once. She rubbed her neck, already turning away. Worked late last night. Exhausted. I'm going to bed. Worked late. That line snapped something in my haze. My thoughts began to clear, one by one, like windows being thrown open. Just before she reached the bedroom door, I called out. Vanessa. She paused. What? I looked at her. Really looked. The words were there, sitting at the edge of my throat. Where were you last night? Do you love Julian? Are you even trying to lie anymore? But nothing came out. I couldn't say it. I didn't dare. I couldn't bear to hear the answer out loud. There had been others before, flings with assistance, little games of power and seduction, but none of them had lasted. No man had stayed by her side more than a month. None of them made it past the flirtation. Except Julian. Julian was different. And I had been right all along. Julian wasn't just a fling. He was the exception. The next morning, I packed my suitcase and left for another business trip. I told myself this would be the last thing I ever did for Vanessa. One final act of loyalty. I closed the deal. And with that, I broke the promise I once made to Sterling, to stay, to protect, to love her daughter no matter what. I couldn't do it anymore. Loving Vanessa had become unbearable. It hurt too much. By the time I returned, 2 weeks had passed. The company threw a celebration dinner in my honor, handshakes, polite applause, all the usual formalities. Halfway through the evening, Julian arrived, late, of course. Without hesitation, he slid into the seat next to Vanessa, the one someone had deliberately left open for him. The table, once buzzing with light chatter, fell dead silent. Every glance shifted to me. In the past, I probably would have exploded. I would have stood up, caused a scene, demanded answers. But now? I just smiled, found an empty chair far from them, and sat down. Not a word. Not a wasted breath. The tension cracked, and one by one, everyone relaxed, everyone but the two of them. But they didn't have to worry. Not anymore. Because somewhere during that trip, I let it all go. I'd finally reached the point where I just didn't care. As everyone clinked glasses and the alcohol started flowing, Julian suddenly stood up. Mr. West, he said, raising his glass. You really are the backbone of this company. This deal wouldn't have gone through without you. At least half the credit, probably more, belongs to you. Thank you for everything you've done. He tipped his head back and downed the drink in one clean swallow. I stayed seated. Didn't move. Didn't reach for my glass. Just watched. Vanessa noticed, and she didn't like it. Julian just toasted you, she said sharply. What, you're ignoring him? Is that you disrespecting him, or disrespecting me? I glanced at her, calm. So now she was defending him. I just took some medication, I said. Can't drink. She narrowed her eyes. Don't give me that. You knew there was a dinner tonight, and you just happened to take medicine that means you can't drink? Convenient. I sighed. Her constant accusations, the exhausting logic gymnastics, it was like trying to argue with a storm. Without a word, I reached for my chopsticks, figuring I'd at least get some food in me. But before I could take a bite, Vanessa slammed her palm down on the table with a sharp crack. Aaron. Her voice cut through the room. You deaf or just pretending? The room froze. Every conversation dropped. Every movement stopped. Silence pressed in from all sides. Everyone at the table went stiff. All eyes were on us, awkward, tense, terrified to breathe too loudly. Then Julian tried to defuse the tension. "Come on now, Ms. Sterling, don't get upset." He stood and walked over to me, holding his glass like a peace offering. I looked up at him, dead in the eye. I said, "I'm not feeling well." "You don't understand plain English?" Then I knocked the glass straight out of his hand. The drink splashed across his shirt and down his front. The room froze. And Vanessa lost it. "Are you out of your mind?" She stormed toward me, heels clicking like gunshots. "You think just because you closed a deal, you get to act however the hell you want?" "Act however I want?" I let out a short laugh. Shook my head. "Think whatever you want, Vanessa." That did it. To her, my calm wasn't restraint, it was provocation. Her eyes turned sharp, her voice icy with warning. "Pack your things. You're done. Don't bother showing up tomorrow." Gasps rippled around the room. Everyone knew, without me, this company wouldn't have gotten half as far. I'd carried more weight than anyone, even if no one dared say it out loud. But Vanessa didn't care. Or maybe she just didn't see it. I met her glare with something she hadn't expected, relief. Without a word, I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the document I'd been carrying for weeks. My resignation. "I was already ready," I said. "This is my letter of resignation." I turned to the table, looking at the faces I'd worked with for years. "As of tomorrow, I won't be working with any of you anymore." Vanessa froze. She hadn't expected this. Her eyes filled with disbelief, like it had never once crossed her mind that I'd actually walk away. Maybe she thought I'd do what I always did, back down, smooth things over, stay. But not this time. I looked at her, voice low and rough. "Make sure you sign it. No need to let this get messy in front of everyone." Then I stood, ready to go. Julian grabbed my arm. "Come on, Mr. West," he said with a forced chuckle. "Ms. Sterling was just joking around. No need to take it so seriously. Get your hand off me." I yanked my arm free with enough force to make him stumble back a step. A few colleagues rushed over, trying to play peacemaker. "Mr. West, it's a celebration, why ruin it with all this? Yeah, you and Ms. Sterling are married. Can't you just talk it through?" Before I could respond, Vanessa cut in. Her voice sharp as broken glass. "Don't stop him." She glared at me. "Let him go. You think throwing a tantrum will scare me into crawling back? Pathetic." Julian stepped in again, putting on that fake peacemaker act. "Mr. West, don't be like this." He leaned in close, voice dropping to a whisper, tone sharp with mockery. "Your wife's incredible, you know that?" Something in me snapped. I shoved him hard, sending him stumbling back, just as that smug little glint flickered in his eyes. "Whoa," he cried out dramatically, crashing to the floor like he'd been struck. Vanessa's reaction was instant. She was shaking with rage as she stormed over and shoved me backward. "What the hell is wrong with you? You trying to get yourself killed?" Then she turned to the room, voice slicing through the air. "Everyone, out. Now." The crowd didn't need to be told twice. The tension broke like a dam, and people rushed for the exit in awkward silence. Even Julian, who looked like he wanted to stay and gloat a little more, got shoved out with the rest. Then it was just the two of us. Vanessa's expression was dark, stormy. Her hands were clenched at her sides. "What the hell are you trying to do?" she snapped. "Humiliate me in front of everyone? You want me to completely lose face?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, so now you care about saving face? Where was that concern when you were the one dragging me through the mud? She flinched slightly. Then her brow furrowed, her tone shifting, defensive, irritated. This is about Julian again? Seriously? How many times do I have to tell you, there's nothing going on between us? God, can you stop being so damn insecure for once? And in that moment, everything I'd been holding back finally broke loose. Yeah, you're damn right I'm being petty. I shouted. I can't stand watching my wife play these flirty little games with another man day after day. I can't stand some guy walking around my house in my bathrobe, giving my wife those looks like I'm not even there. I can't stand that smug little pretty boy constantly baiting me, right to my face. The words poured out in a rush, everything I'd buried finally clawing its way up. There was no control left, only the wound, wide open. But instead of relief, all I felt was a heavier kind of pain. That hollow, sickening ache of ripping open a scar that never healed, and realizing the blood still runs just as deep. Vanessa stared at me, stunned. She hadn't seen this coming. She hadn't thought I could explode. It took her a long moment before she finally spoke, her voice quieter than before. I thought, you didn't care. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Didn't care? No man, no sane, self-respecting man, would be okay with this. With his wife giggling and whispering to another man like it meant nothing. Like he meant nothing. No, this wasn't about whether I cared. It was about how long I kept pretending not to. And the truth was, I didn't care anymore. Not because I was strong, or forgiving. But because my heart had been ground down to nothing, chipped away by disappointment, betrayal, and silence. Again and again. There was nothing left to protect. No love left to salvage. I took a deep breath. Looked her in the eye. And gave her a small, exhausted smile. I'm sorry. That was out of line. But I'll have the divorce papers sent to you soon. Just, make sure you sign them. Vanessa's chest rose and fell sharply, her eyes full of fury and disbelief. Do you even hear yourself right now? I took a slow breath, then nodded. Yeah, I said. Let's get divorced. The moment the words left my mouth, it felt like the weight pressing down on my chest finally lifted. I'd thought about divorce before, more than once. But this was the first time I could actually say it. Mean it. Feel it in my bones. Vanessa stared at me, unmoving. Then something shifted behind her eyes. Her lips curled into a cold, bitter smile. You're just a low-level sales manager in my company, she sneered. Without me, who the hell would even look at someone like you? You're nothing. Nothing. Even now, when there was nothing left to break, that word carved another deep cut in an already ruined heart. I smiled bitterly. Said nothing. There was no point anymore. I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, her voice rang out like a curse. Don't forget how you begged me to marry you. If we divorce now, you better not regret it. She left a few hours later. Went straight to Julian. She stayed with him for a week. While she was gone, I packed everything. Called for a courier, shipped the boxes out. Then I met with some old friends, people I'd lost touch with over the years, the ones who had quietly watched me bend and break for far too long. When I told them what I was doing, they didn't ask why. They just said, finally, and wished me well. That night, I came home alone. My head was foggy. My body heavy. I sank onto the couch. And there, right across from me, was our wedding photo still hanging on the wall. My phone buzzed. Vanessa had updated her Instagram. It was a photo of her and Julian, arms wrapped around each other, locked in a kiss. Both of them smiling. Blissful. I let out a quiet breath. Turned off the phone without hesitation. Then I stood, walked to the dining table, and placed the divorce papers in the center, already signed and ready. The next morning, I went to the office to finalize my resignation. To be honest, it was just a formality. Any real authority I had in the company had been stripped away long ago. So when I submitted my notice, the HR director didn't even blink. No questions. No polite hesitation. Just a rubber stamp and a signature. Before I could even make it out the front doors, my phone rang. "Vanessa. You've made your point," she snapped the moment I picked up. "But this has gone far enough. I'm rejecting your resignation. Don't push it. If you do, I'll make sure you walk away with nothing, not a single cent. You'll be out of Sterling Group for good." I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. 7 years together, and she still thought I was the kind of man who could be bought. That she could leash me with threats and money. "As you like," I said calmly. Then I hung up and blocked her number. The silence that followed was immediate. And peaceful. I resubmitted the resignation later that day. This time, Vanessa approved it without a word. When I received the official paperwork, I walked out of Sterling Group for the last time. Didn't look back. Just as I was about to leave for good, the company's vice president called. "You're really resigning?" he asked, sounding almost panicked. "Yes," I said flatly. His tone shifted, urgent now. "But what about the project? You know better than anyone, Ms. Sterling never gets involved. If this deal falls apart, the consequences could be devastating. Can't you just wait? At least until the project wraps up?" "I'm sorry," I cut in with a sigh. "I closed the deal. How and when it moves forward, that's on you now." "But companies don't revolve around one person," I said, my voice hardening. "It'll survive without me." "It has to." There was silence on the other end. Then a long, heavy breath. "Well," the VP said, finally. "Mr. West, it's been an honor working with you. I always thought we made a great team. I hope, someday, we'll get the chance to work together again." I didn't respond with much. Just a few polite words to close the call. Because in my mind, that chapter was already sealed shut. This company, Vanessa's company, would never have ties to me again. That night, I slept better than I had in years. No worrying about Vanessa's drunken return, her moods, or whether she'd even come home. No company politics buzzing in the back of my mind. No wait. Just quiet. The next morning, I was woken by the sharp, grating ring of my phone. Still groggy, I answered, and was met with Vanessa's voice, livid and shrill. "What the hell is wrong with you? The contract signing for your project is in a few days. You'd better show up, or else." I rubbed my eyes, sighed, and pulled the phone away from my ear until she ran out of steam. When the yelling finally paused, I spoke, calm, deliberate. "You really are something, Ms. Sterling. If I remember correctly, you approved my resignation yesterday. So tell me, what does this project have to do with me anymore?" "Aaron." She shouted my name, fury surging through the line. "I'm warning you. Don't make me get legal. Your resignation might be approved, but the handover isn't complete. If you bail now, I have the right to pursue action. But I'd had enough. If you actually read my resignation documents," I said coldly, "you wouldn't be calling me with this crap." And with that, I ended the call. No hesitation. I zipped up the last of my bags and took one last look around the apartment I'd spent 5 years surviving in. Time to go. Time to leave this life behind. Just as I stepped out the door, I heard tires screech in the distance. Vanessa's car pulled up fast and hard, as if she was trying to chase something before it got away. She got out, eyes narrowing the moment she saw the suitcase in my hand. "What's with the luggage? Where do you think you're going?" I didn't flinch. My voice was flat, emotionless. Just getting out for a bit. Vanessa's scowl deepened. She muttered under her breath as she walked closer. You've got time for a vacation now? Really? Are you kidding me? You're just trying to get out of work, aren't you? You're due at the office this afternoon, we've got a ton of things waiting for you. Got it, I said, nodding calmly. But inside, all I felt was contempt. Her pride would always matter more than anything real. And in that moment, my resolve solidified. If the love is gone, why pretend? Vanessa didn't wait for a response. She went inside, rummaged around, then came back out with a file in her hands. Could you at least clean the place when you're here all day? Look at this mess. She barked the words over her shoulder, then got in her car and drove off without a second glance. I didn't say anything. She hadn't noticed the divorce papers on the table. Of course she hadn't. Her attention was never in this house, not really. She wouldn't see what was right in front of her unless it screamed. I stood there for a while, just watching her disappear down the road. As if on cue, the sky darkened. Rain broke open without warning, wild, punishing, loud. It felt less like cleansing, more like a final insult. A storm trying to wash away something that was long past saving. Perfect, I muttered. There was nothing romantic about the rain. Just another inconvenience. I popped open an umbrella and walked away. The plane touched down just as the sun was setting. The horizon was bathed in gold and violet, streaks of flame painting the sky like something out of a dream. I stepped out of the terminal, suitcase in hand, and spotted her right away. A girl in a pale tracksuit, standing with effortless confidence. Hi there, Mr. West, right? I'm here to pick you up. Company sent me. Thanks, I replied. And please, just call me Aaron. She grinned, easy and bright. All right then, Aaron. I'm Charlotte, your new assistant from now on. Looking forward to working together. She stuck out her hand without hesitation, her expression open and friendly. Her eyes were bright, crescent-shaped when she smiled. The kind of smile that made it easy to breathe again. Honestly, it caught me off guard. I shook her hand, a bit awkwardly. Trying to change the subject, I smiled. How about we grab something to eat? Charlotte stuck out her tongue playfully, unfazed. Sure. I'm starving. I picked a small restaurant nearby, quiet, nothing fancy. Charlotte excused herself to the restroom shortly after we sat down. That's when Vanessa called. I declined the call without hesitation. A moment later, the screen lit up again. Persistent, as always. I sighed and answered, slowly. Her voice exploded through the speaker before I could say a word. What the hell is wrong with you? Why weren't you at today's meeting? You're nothing now. Just a rat scurrying through the streets since you left Sterling Group. My voice was calm. Flat. Appreciate the concern, Ms. Sterling. I honestly didn't know where she got her confidence from. She'd earned the trust of shareholders, sure, but who do they think sealed those deals? Built those bridges? Attended those endless dinner meetings night after night? Who made all that happen? And now that we've split, what exactly does she think I've lost? For the salary she paid me, I could walk into another firm tomorrow. She was quiet for a beat. When she spoke again, her voice had cooled, controlled, but icy. You made this choice. I won't be giving you a cent more than what's required. Don't expect any goodwill. Stop. I cut her off mid-sentence. I left on my own terms. We go by the contract. I'll take what's owed, nothing more, nothing less. Maybe it was my calm tone, or maybe the fact that she was losing her grip, but now the venom came out. You better think this through, she said, voice dripping with contempt. You're not some hotshot kid anymore. Let's be honest, you never were. You only got where you are because I gave you that chance. I let you in. And this is how you repay me?" She scoffed. "Better hope you don't end up begging on the street. Don't say I didn't warn you." I let out a quiet, humorless laugh. She still didn't get it. "You're the one who needs a reality check," I said coldly. "Your entire world is built on ground you didn't even lay. You're standing at the top of a tower you didn't build. Maybe take a long, hard look at how those deals really came through, before it's too late." I didn't wait for her reply. "I left the divorce papers on the table," I added. "Just sign them." Then I ended the call. No emotion. No wait. Just done. Vanessa's voice dropped, cold and clipped. "You need to stop playing games. My patience has limits." Even now, after everything, she still thought I was bluffing. That this was just another tantrum. Another phase. "I'm not joking," I said, my tone calm. Charlotte returned from the restroom just then. I glanced up and gave her a small nod. My voice softened slightly, but my words were steel. "I've already started a new job. I'm not coming back. Unless it's about the divorce, don't call me again." On the other end, Vanessa's voice shot up like a siren. "You got a new job? Why the hell didn't you talk to me about this first? So what, you're just giving up on this family?" "A family?" I let out a low, bitter laugh. For the past 2 years, that so-called family was just me. Waiting. Waiting every night for her to come home. Waiting every morning with questions I never asked. I was done waiting. Done losing sleep over a marriage that had long since become a ghost. "You checked out of that family a long time ago," I said. "Let's stop pretending. Let go, Vanessa. If I were you, I'd have signed those divorce papers already." Her tone turned icy. 5 years of marriage, and you think you can just walk out like it meant nothing? What do you take me for? You really think this is fair? That you're not just being cold and heartless? You're not even a real man." There it was. Desperation dressed as fury. She didn't want me, but she couldn't stand the idea of losing me either. Not me, the person. Me, the fallback. The one who cooked, cleaned, covered. The emotional backup plan. I sighed. There was nothing left to argue. Without another word, I hung up. No more shouting. No more guilt. No more pretending she could talk me back. This marriage was over. Whether she accepted it or not. "What's wrong?" Charlotte had just returned to her seat, a flicker of concern crossing her face as she caught my expression. "Nothing," I said, setting my phone face down on the table. There was no need to drag her into it. Despite the unwelcome interruption, the mood quickly picked back up. Charlotte's energy was light, her humor effortless. Conversation flowed naturally as we talked about the branch office, our upcoming tasks, and how the workflow was structured. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed again and again on the table. I didn't have to look to know who it was. Vanessa. Calls. Messages. Accusations. Demands. I powered the phone off. Out of sight, out of mind. The next few days, I threw myself into work. I focused on the details, on learning the team's rhythm, on adjusting to the pace of this new branch. We were all part of the same company, sure, but we'd never worked together directly before. It would take time to sync up. Fortunately, the team was welcoming. Professional. Kind. And I wasn't exactly green. We hit our stride quicker than expected, and by the end of the first week, there was a real sense of momentum, shared understanding, unspoken cues, effortless collaboration. They liked me, too. Maybe it was the quiet, no-ego approach. Maybe it was the fact that I actually listened. We started going out after work, dinners, drinks, even small gatherings at someone's place. Charlotte was almost always there. She had a kind of natural magnetism, the sort that lit up any room without even trying. People were drawn to her, me included. And over time, without either of us forcing it, we started getting closer. Just, naturally. Julian was fast asleep beside her, his breathing slow and heavy. But Vanessa stared blankly at the ceiling, wide awake. No matter how many times she closed her eyes, sleep wouldn't come. The image of Aaron, standing calmly as he said, "Let's get divorced," kept playing on a loop in her mind. The moment she got home that night, she saw it, sitting right there on the table. The divorce agreement. Simple. Clean. Unemotional. He wanted nothing. No property. No compensation. Just a clean break. And somehow, that cut deeper than anything else. How could Aaron give up on her so easily? He was supposed to beg. Grovel. Wait around like he always did. That's what she expected. All she had to do was go silent for a few days, let him cool off, and he'd come crawling back, like always. But this time? Nothing. Days had passed. Not a single word from him. Was he actually serious? She picked up her phone and scrolled through their old conversations. She didn't even notice it before, but now it was impossible to miss. Aaron used to send long, thoughtful messages, checking in, sharing details, asking how her day was. Trying. Always trying. Her replies? Dry. Dismissive. One-word answers. Amichum. Okay. Sometimes, no reply at all. But somewhere along the way, it shifted. Now she was the one sending the paragraphs. And he had become the one answering with, "Got it. Okay." Or nothing at all. Her chest tightened. Frantically, she opened his contact and hit call. Nothing. Not even a dial tone. Just, call failed. Vanessa slowly lowered the phone, her hand trembling. No. That's not possible. He wouldn't block me. Her mind buzzed, a rising static in her skull. She had never thought, really thought, this would happen. But now? Now there was no denying it. Aaron was really leaving her. And this time, he meant it. Julian stirred, half asleep, feeling a chill in the room. He cracked one eye open and saw Vanessa sitting upright, staring blankly at her phone. He reached over and pulled her into his arms, his hands casually sliding over her chest as he pressed his face into the crook of her neck, his voice low and teasing. "Still awake," he murmured. "Did I not wear you out enough?" His words were thick with suggestion, but Vanessa didn't respond like she usually did. There was no playful push, no heat in her eyes, just silence and a strange tension in her body. Undeterred, Julian grinned and kept going. "Well damn. You're insatiable tonight. Guess I'll just have to fix that." He rolled on top of her, nuzzling against her chest, already imagining the moment she would melt like she always did. A few days ago, he'd overheard her phone call with Aaron. And he'd seen the crumpled divorce agreement in her bag. That was all he needed to know, he was winning. Aaron was out of the picture. Vanessa was finally his. His lips curved in a smirk, and he muttered under his breath as his hands moved lower. "See? Your man's gone now. That means we can finally be together, for real." But just as his hands slipped between her thighs, Vanessa jolted like she'd been electrocuted. She shoved him off and scrambled to the other side of the bed. Startled, Julian blinked. "What?" Before he could finish, the bedside lamp flicked on. Vanessa was sitting upright, staring at him with an expression he'd never seen before, cold. Sharp. Almost afraid. "What did you just say?" Her voice was ice. Julian hesitated. I just meant, I overheard you talking to him that night. That's all. I saw the divorce paper in your bag, and I just thought. His voice trailed off. Because in that moment, something clicked. Vanessa didn't look triumphant. She didn't look like a woman free from a loveless marriage. She looked shaken. Hollow. Angry. He swallowed hard. You're not still in love with him, are you? Even as he said it, the words felt ridiculous. Vanessa? The untouchable beauty? The woman who made CEOs nervous and boardrooms go quiet? But when he looked at her now, really looked, Julian saw something that made his stomach tighten. She didn't answer. And that silence was louder than any slap. By comparison, I was nothing special. Just a regular guy, ordinary. Even the once sharp features of my face had begun to show the wear of time. Julian, on the other hand, was young, confident, and endlessly indulged. Vanessa had given in to his whims so many times, it was no wonder he believed he was the one she truly loved. In his mind, he was the upgrade. He was the man she wanted. So her silence now? Her cold stare? It didn't add up. Vanessa didn't even bother to explain. She stood, her voice sharp and distant. My life is none of your business. Don't speak on things you don't understand. She got dressed without looking back, then slammed the door behind her. Julian sat there in bed, seething. His jaw tightened. God damn it. This wasn't supposed to happen. He thought he had her. Had finally taken Aaron's place for good. But now? It felt like Aaron had pulled the rug out from under him, without even being in the room. This was a game, Julian told himself. He's doing this on purpose. A calculated move. Disappear, create distance, stir confusion. He was trying to make Vanessa doubt everything, to push her away from Julian without lifting a finger. And worst of all, it might be working. Vanessa had searched everywhere. She'd asked around, colleagues, former contacts, even a few old friends, but no one knew where Aaron had gone. Now she sat alone in her office, the weight of it all starting to settle into her expression. A hollowness crept in. Then her phone rang. Julian. She declined the call immediately. It rang again. She declined it again. When it rang a third time, her patience snapped. For God's sake, are you done yet? There was a pause on the other end, then a nervous voice replied. Sorry to bother you, ma'am. I'm just a delivery driver. I have a package for you. Are you available to sign for it now? Her anger cooled in an instant. A delivery? Yes, ma'am. I'm at the gate of your villa right now. If you're not available, I can try again tomorrow. Wait, she cut in. Something clicked in her mind. Who's the sender? It's from Mr. West. Vanessa shot to her feet. I'll be right there. Don't move. She practically sprinted through the office, straight into her car, flying down the road like adrenaline was the only thing keeping her upright. By the time she reached the gate of her community, she spotted the deliveryman heading out. Where's my package? She asked sharply, grabbing his arm. The man jumped, startled. Oh, your husband already signed for it. He took it inside a few minutes ago. Vanessa froze. My husband? Her eyes narrowed. He's not home. Well, the man said he was your husband. Her heart sank, and then turned to ice. Julian. Her expression hardened as she stormed toward the house. Julian. Where the hell are you? Inside the bathroom, Julian flinched, mid-panic. He glanced down at the box in his hands, then cursed under his breath and threw it into the toilet, frantically slamming the flush button. Too late. The bathroom door burst open, nearly unhinged. Vanessa stood in the doorway, eyes burning. She yanked the box out of his hand before he could react. Inside the box were photographs. Stacks of them. Vanessa stared, hands trembling as she began to flip through. They started from years ago, her college days. Her younger, more innocent self. Her in a school uniform, laughing with friends. Her in gym clothes, running under the sun, ponytail flying behind her. Her in business attire, sharp-eyed and serious in meetings. Her at home in pajamas, waving a spatula like a sword as she cooked dinner. All of them, taken by Aaron. Some she remembered him taking. Others, she had no idea existed. Stolen moments. Candid glimpses of a woman who'd once been loved with complete attention. She had never realized Aaron was this good with a camera. Never knew he'd been watching her that closely, that quietly. Every photo radiated warmth. She wasn't just captured, she was cherished. Bathed in soft light, golden, glowing. His love wasn't in the photos, it was the photos. The way she was framed. The softness in the timing. The focus on her eyes, her smile, her hands. As if he'd been trying to preserve her. Vanessa's hands began to shake harder. Her eyes blurred. Her breath caught somewhere between her chest and throat. And then she turned to the last one. It froze her. She and Julian. In bed. A shot from outside the door. Not intimate. Not angry. Just, hollow. Her heart seized. A sharp, sudden stab, so violent she had to press a hand to her chest. The photo slipped from her fingers. It fluttered to the floor. And that's when she saw the writing on the back. Aaron's handwriting. Vanessa, was there ever a moment, just one, when you felt sorry for what you did to me? Her breath caught. She frantically picked up more photos. Each one had something written on the back. Vanessa, you're beautiful when you work. Focused. Brilliant. Vanessa, I love you. Wife, I snuck another picture. If you find this one day, will you be mad at me? Vanessa. That one was torn in half. Only her name remained. She spun around and grabbed Julian by the wrist, her voice trembling with fury. Where's the other half? Julian flinched. Hey, calm down. You're scaring me. Where is it? She shouted. Answer me. He pointed at the toilet. I tore it up. I flushed it. Okay? Smack. Vanessa's hand struck his face with a sharp, ringing crack. Julian staggered back, stunned. And Vanessa stood there, breathing hard, staring at the torn memory of something she'd never get back. Julian stared at her, eyes wide with shock and fury. You said you didn't love him, he shouted. So why are you clinging to all this? I destroyed those pictures for you. I just didn't want him messing with your head anymore. Vanessa's voice cut through him like a blade. Get out. He shook his head, breath catching. I'm the one you love. Aaron's gone, but I'm still here. You still have me. He stood, stepped toward her, arms out like he could still fix it all by holding her. But Vanessa stepped back. Her eyes were filled with disgust. And something else, warning. Don't make me say it again, she said, her voice like stone. Get out. Julian froze. Get out. The word exploded from her. He could see it now, plain as day. The fury. The heartbreak. The complete rejection. He tried to pivot, tried to salvage something. Okay. I'll just make you something to eat, alright? Let me go to the kitchen. You. Vanessa didn't blink. Didn't soften. Her voice was steady. Ice cold. Get out of my house. She took a step closer. Out of the house I shared with Aaron. Julian's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She wasn't bluffing. He grabbed his jacket and left without another word. The door slammed behind him. And Vanessa was alone. Finally. Utterly. Alone, with the photographs. With the memories. And with everything she'd spent years pretending she didn't need. During my time at the new company, I started to notice something about Charlotte. She wasn't just any assistant. The way the others treated her, respectful, almost overly cautious, said it all. No one was rude, but there was a subtle deference in every interaction. It didn't take long to guess, there was more to her than she let on. Maybe it was the job. Maybe it was her personality. But Charlotte had a way of always being nearby, dropping by my desk, suggesting we grab lunch, offering to walk home together after work. And of course, that didn't go unnoticed. People talked. Some asked questions with half smiles and sideways glances. "You and Charlotte seem close, huh?" I tried explaining. Politely. Repeatedly. But their expressions never changed, those knowing, amused looks said they weren't buying it. There was no malice behind the gossip, but it made me uncomfortable. So, I started pulling back. Keeping things professional. Clear lines. Some distance. Charlotte noticed. She cornered me after hours one evening, right at my office door. "Why are you avoiding me?" I looked away. "It's not like that. You're misunderstanding." Her brows drew together. She stomped a foot, clearly frustrated. "Don't call me Henry. Call me Charlotte. Only Charlotte." I faltered, unsure how to respond. The moment hung in awkward silence, until my phone rang. Sharp. Urgent. A welcome distraction. I answered without even checking the screen. "Where the hell are you?" "I'm outside your office." Vanessa's voice hit me like a cold wave. I froze. "Outside my office? I guess you thought moving to another city meant I couldn't find you." There was venom in her voice, barely restrained. She didn't even remember the 8 hours she'd spent getting there. She'd found my location through mutual contacts, friends who thought they were helping. At first, she'd felt relief. Excitement, even. Then the anger set in. He left without a word. He just walked out. My brows furrowed. This wasn't like her. Vanessa never chased. Charlotte gave me a puzzled look. "Who is it?" Vanessa clearly heard her voice on the other end. "Who are you with?" I exhaled slowly. "That's none of your business. I told you, unless this is about the divorce, don't call me." And with that, I hung up. Cold. Clean. Final. "You're getting a divorce?" Charlotte's eyes widened in disbelief. "Yeah. I didn't try to hide it. As you can see, I'm not exactly a success story when it comes to relationships. I'm not someone worth liking." Charlotte's brows furrowed with quiet anger, but her voice was gentle. "No. You're good." She's the one who didn't know what she had. Before I could answer, noise erupted from down the hall, raised voices, hurried footsteps. "Aaron! Get out here!" I stiffened. Stepping out of my office, I saw her. Vanessa. She was in the middle of the company lobby, shouting like she was in the middle of a courtroom, not a workplace. 2 security guards flanked her, looking awkward and clearly unsure what to do. "Ma'am, if you keep this up, we're going to have to call the police." "Go ahead," she snapped. "I'm here to find my husband. You don't get to call the cops on me for that." She was unhinged. Thankfully, most people had already left for the day. Her outburst didn't draw a full crowd. But then her eyes landed on me. And on Charlotte, standing beside me. Her face hardened instantly. She marched over, zeroed in. "You've had your tantrum," I said flatly. "Go home." She grabbed my arm. "Come with me. Now." I pulled away, jaw tightening. "You're out of line." "I'm out of line?" Vanessa's voice rose, and the beautiful composure she always carried cracked into rage. "You walked out without a word and dumped divorce papers on the table. You left. And now you're shacking up with some random girl in another city like nothing ever happened? If you don't come with me now, I swear." Before she could finish, Charlotte stepped between us. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "Who even are you?" Vanessa's eyes flared. "I should be asking you that." "I'm the one who works here," Charlotte shot back. "You're the one causing a scene in someone else's office." The two of them locked eyes. The tension was immediate. "Come home with me," Vanessa said, ignoring Charlotte entirely. Charlotte didn't budge. "He's our project lead. Why should he go anywhere with you?" Vanessa's voice dropped to a growl. "He's my husband. Who the hell are you to speak for him?" Charlotte lifted her chin, unshaken. "I'm someone who actually listens to what he wants. And I know he doesn't want to go with you." Vanessa inhaled sharply, trying to swallow her rage. She forced her tone lower. "Can we just talk? Calmly. Please. I don't think we have anything left to talk about. Your lover's probably wondering where you are. I've got work, a life, and someone who treats me with respect now. Please stop chasing a version of me that doesn't exist anymore." Vanessa went still. She had 100 things to say, but none of them made it out. Because when she met my eyes and saw nothing but cold distance, she knew. Her lips parted, then closed again. "Julian's not my lover," she said quietly. "Just give me 10 minutes. I want to explain. That's all." "I've got other things to do," I said, already turning away. "Some other time." I took Charlotte's hand and walked off without a second glance. Behind us, Vanessa's voice rang out, tight with rage, cracked with hurt. "Fine. Aaron, you're unbelievable. You'd better not regret this." She stormed off. And this time, I didn't follow her. After Vanessa stormed off, I turned to Charlotte with a sigh. "Sorry about that. I didn't mean to drag you into all this. I owe you dinner, at the very least." Charlotte waved it off. "No need. Seriously. Not a big deal." Then she added, with a small scoff, "I just can't stand women like that, thinking the world revolves around them." She grabbed her bag. "Come on. I'm heading in your direction anyway. I'll give you a ride." We took the elevator down. As the doors slid open into the lobby, I froze. Vanessa was still outside. She was standing near the building entrance, arms crossed, eyes locked on us. The moment she saw us chatting, smiling, her expression twisted. Her eyes reddened with anger. "You seem to forget," she spat, "I'm still your wife." Before I could say a word, Charlotte shot back without missing a beat. "Aren't you two getting divorced? That title's about to expire." Vanessa flinched. Her gaze sharpened, filled with fury and something else, something unspoken. Jealousy. Loss. Charlotte's presence made it worse. Her words, her ease beside me, every part of it fed Vanessa's spiral. I ran a hand through my hair and exhaled. "Vanessa, what are you doing?" She didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Turning back to Charlotte, I shook my head. "Thanks for the offer, but I'll go on my own." She opened her mouth to protest, then paused, and nodded, respecting the space I needed. I left alone. Caught a ride home. No company. No noise. Just silence. And honestly, it felt like peace. I had underestimated Vanessa's persistence. That night, someone knocked on my door. When I opened it and saw her standing there, I felt nothing but a wave of exhaustion and frustration. "What do you want now?" I thought I'd been clear. This marriage was over, broken beyond repair. There was nothing left worth salvaging. No reason to keep hurting each other. Vanessa didn't care. She pushed past me without a word and walked into the apartment like she still had the right to. She scanned the room, eyes darting into corners, checking for signs of another woman. Only when she confirmed there were none did she finally relax. She crossed her arms and huffed. "You've made your point," she said. "Now let's go home. I'm willing to forgive all this." The audacity of it stunned me. That tone. That entitlement. Like she was doing me a favor. It was the first time I truly saw her for what she was, a woman so wrapped up in herself she thought the world would bend to her ego. "You really think I don't know what's going on between you and Julian? You think I asked for a divorce just to scare you? We've been married for 5 years, Vanessa. I didn't want a public mess, so I walked away quietly. Out of respect, for both of us. But now? You're making that impossible. Do you really want to drag this all the way down before it ends?" Her face tightened. "How many times do I have to say it? Julian is just a friend." I let out a sharp laugh. "Right. A friend who ends up on top of you in bed?" Vanessa went pale. Her lips parted, but no words came. And in that moment, there was nothing left between us but silence. Ugly. Final. Truth-telling silence. I didn't say anything. Just stood there, watching her struggle to form an excuse she couldn't even believe herself. But she didn't have to say a word. Even without the photos Julian had sent me, I could feel it, how she looked at him, the way her voice softened around him, the way her eyes used to light up for me, and now didn't. She used to be that girl. The one who once looked at me like I was her entire world. Now she was someone else. Dazzling, yes. Powerful, successful, impossible to ignore. But also no longer mine. And not because of fate or circumstance, because she made it that way. Sure, I knew young guys would fall for a woman like her. That came with the territory. But through all the years we dated, through our wedding, through every difficult stretch, we had something I thought was unshakable. I never believed she'd break it. That she'd betray me. That she'd choose someone else. "Stop," I said finally, voice calm. "Don't try to explain anymore. You don't realize this, but I probably know you better than you know yourself. Vanessa, don't come here again. Let it go." She looked like she might say something, like one last desperate plea was forming on her lips. But then her phone rang. She hesitated, glanced at the screen, and answered. "My leg really hurts. Can you come back and stay with me?" Julian's voice, soft and pitiful, floated through the line. Vanessa's posture stiffened. Guilt flickered in her eyes. But only for a moment. She still couldn't let go of him, the younger guy, the attention, the need to be needed. "I'm in the middle of something," she said gently. "Just wait for me, okay? Be careful, don't move too much. You'll hurt yourself." Julian brightened on the other end. "Are you mad at me? You yelled at me that day and I've been feeling really down ever since." Vanessa's face softened, and her voice dropped into something almost maternal, tender, doting, sweet. "I'm sorry, baby. That was my fault. When I get back, I'll make it up to you, all right?" By the time she hung up, the guilt in her expression was gone. Wiped clean. Erased. Whatever remorse she had for everything she'd done, was gone, buried beneath a warm phone call and a few sweet words from a younger man who made her feel adored. It was as if the affair never happened. As if the pain she caused had vanished from her conscience completely. She tucked her phone away and looked at me like nothing had happened. It was just a bit of fun. I got bored, that's all. You don't have to blow everything out of proportion. Her voice softened, coaxing, as if that could rewind the damage. You'll always be my husband. No one's ever going to replace you. Isn't that what you want to hear? I felt sick. Get out, Vanessa. Just get the hell out. Don't make me repeat myself. There was no filter on my voice, no attempt to soften the disgust. For a moment, fury flashed in her eyes. But when she caught the look on my face, the loathing I didn't bother to hide, it wavered into something else. Something closer to panic. All I did was get a little close with someone else. It's not like come on, are you really going to act like you're so innocent? What about that little girl you've been? Shut your mouth. My voice cracked like a whip across the room. You spit one more lie, and I swear to God I'll file a lawsuit tomorrow morning. Vanessa's chest rose and fell with ragged fury. But beneath it, I could see something new flickering to life, confusion. She didn't understand. For years, I never raised my voice. I never challenged her. I took every slight with silence. I was the man who made her dinner, who walked 3 steps behind her shadow and asked for nothing. Now I was telling her to get out like she was trash on the floor. And it finally hit her. Something had changed. Something she couldn't control anymore. Me. As soon as Vanessa stepped out and slammed the door behind her, a silence fell over the room, one I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't peace. Not yet. But it was the first breath after drowning. The weekend. When Charlotte asked me to go shopping with her, I almost turned her down out of habit. But then she threw in a line that made me pause. Unless, of course, you're still hoping to get back with your ex. Was I? The answer was quick and easy, no. Not anymore. So I said yes. We met the next day, and I spotted her before she saw me. She stood on the corner in a pair of denim shorts and a white tee knotted at the waist. Simple. Effortless. Stunning. When she saw me, she lit up and waved with both hands, that kind of energy that makes other people smile without knowing why. She didn't just look good, she looked alive. It hit me then just how different she was from Vanessa. Not just in looks or style, but in presence. Charlotte could walk into a room and soften the air without saying a word. There was no sharp edge, no performance. Just warmth. Sure, everyone in the company noticed her. Some even tried their luck. But she never played the game. Charlotte had a way of being kind without inviting expectation. It made her seem distant, even while standing right beside you. And yet, somehow, she'd let me in, closer than she did anyone else. I didn't know what that meant yet. But for the first time in a long while, I was open to finding out. I sighed, long and deep, feeling the weight of the past crashing down like a wave that had no more force, only noise. Vanessa was still standing there, seething. Her voice shrill, her accusations scattered. She didn't care about truth, she cared about control. About saving face. About ownership. I looked her straight in the eyes. You think this is about Charlotte? She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. It's not. It's about respect. It's about 5 years of me being treated like a placeholder. It's about nights you didn't come home, lies you didn't bother to hide, and a man in my house wearing my robe. The crowd outside the shopping center was starting to slow down, sensing the tension. But I didn't care anymore. Charlotte gently squeezed my hand. Not to stop me, just to let me know she was there. I turned back to Vanessa and spoke quieter, firmer. You didn't lose me because of Charlotte. You lost me because you never thought I'd leave. Vanessa's face twisted between rage and panic. For a second, I saw the real her, raw, scared, grasping at something she couldn't control anymore. "We're done, Vanessa. And if it makes you feel better to blame her, blame the moon, blame whatever you want, go ahead. But leave me out of your mess. I'm not coming back." I didn't wait for her reply. I turned to Charlotte. "Still feel like shopping?" She smiled, not smug, not triumphant, just warm. "More than ever." We walked into the mall, hand in hand, and for the first time in a long time. I didn't look back. For 5 years, I gave everything I had to this marriage. I tried, really tried, to patch up what was already falling apart. And this is what I get in return? Baseless accusations? Demands like I was the one who broke us? Don't you think this is just pathetic?" I said, the edge in my voice sharp. My eyes locked on hers, cold and tired. "Between the two of us, who really let this marriage fall apart?" "I don't care," Vanessa snapped. "As long as we're still married, you don't get to mess around with some other woman." She stepped toward me, reaching for my hand like she still had some right to it. I pulled back, my voice turning to ice. "Enough. I told you, I don't want anything more to do with you." Before I could finish, a voice rang out behind me. "Vanessa." "Julian." He came jogging over, casual as ever, and threw an arm around Vanessa's shoulders like this was all some joke. Then he turned to me, smirking. Well, Mr. West. Been a while. You're looking older." His tone was all mockery, his touch on her possessive. I stared at them, at the way she let him hold her, and the bitterness hit hard. "You hear yourself just now?" I asked Vanessa, my voice low. "How's that not the definition of hypocrisy?" Vanessa gently shrugged Julian off, her expression unreadable. "I only brought him along so he could get used to the work environment here," she said, calm, like that explained anything. "So?" My gaze didn't waver. "You saying all this to prove what, exactly?" Because no matter how she spun it, there was one truth that couldn't be erased. She cheated. "You don't have to explain anything to me." I cut her off. "Whatever you and your little boyfriend have going on, it's none of my business," I said. "That's your freedom." And with that, I grabbed Charlotte's hand and walked off. "Aaron!" Vanessa called after me, quickening her pace. Charlotte glanced back once, then tugged me toward a nearby shopping complex. We weaved through narrow aisles, turning corner after corner until we slipped out the other side. I thought that would be enough to shake her. But I clearly underestimated how far Vanessa was willing to go. A few minutes later, I noticed them, Vanessa and Julian, still trailing us from behind. My frustration boiled over. I stopped walking and turned around, standing still in the middle of the sidewalk. Might as well let them catch up. Vanessa stormed over first, her heels striking the pavement like gunshots. "Aaron, how long are you planning to drag this out?" She stopped just inches from me, arms crossed, breath shallow. "Fine, whatever. I'll apologize." "Happy now?" It was rare to see her back down. But even her apology sounded like a performance, rushed, empty, half-hearted. Still, the bitter irony wasn't lost on me. Even this level of fake remorse was more than she'd ever given me in 5 years of marriage. "You really don't get it, do you?" I stared at her, voice calm but sharp. "You know exactly what you did. You just don't want to say it out loud. If the roles were reversed, if I did what you did, could you honestly stand there and say you'd forgive me?" Her face twitched. But she didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. She couldn't. Before Vanessa could say a word, Julian grabbed her hand. "Aaron, you don't have to make this so ugly just because of me," he said, his voice calm, almost patronizing. "Vanessa needs someone who can keep the house running. Someone stable, who can support her emotionally. If you really loved her, you wouldn't make things harder. You'd take care of the boring stuff. Let me handle the rest. Why not? He smiled, as if he'd just proposed some genius solution. Maybe a relationship with 3 people could work. Who's to say it can't be happy? What the hell kind of logic was that? I shook my head, a short bitter laugh escaping my lips. But before I could even respond, Vanessa suddenly yanked her hand out of his grip. What kind of bullshit are you spouting? Her voice was sharp, furious, a rare flicker of actual fire. Her eyes burned as she glared at him. Julian, you're an adult. There are things you can say, and things you absolutely don't. Figure out the difference. Julian froze, his expression stiffening. In all the time they'd been together, Vanessa had always spoiled him, indulgent, lenient, never raising her voice, never putting him in his place. She'd never even scolded him. Not once. So now, caught completely off guard, he did what he always did, put on that wounded, puppy dog look. Playing the victim. Hoping she'd cave like always. But this time, it didn't work. Vanessa didn't even look at him. Her eyes were already elsewhere, glazed with irritation. Julian took a step back, finally sensing the shift. And for once, he kept his mouth shut. Come home with me, Vanessa said softly, stepping closer. It was the first time her voice had even a hint of gentleness. Julian's face twisted immediately, his glare shifting to me, resentful, venomous. I didn't react. I'd always known Julian wasn't just some harmless boy toy. He'd provoked me more than once in the past, little jabs, smug looks, passive digs. And I'd always let it go. But even a doormat gets tired of being stepped on. I'll go back with you, I said quietly. But what about him? Vanessa froze. She turned automatically, eyes flicking to Julian. He dropped the glare in a heartbeat, replacing it with that practiced, helpless look of his. Big eyes, pouty lips, the whole kicked puppy routine. And yeah, with a face like his and acting that good, the guy probably could have booked a movie role or 2. Vanessa hesitated. A flicker of guilt crossed her face. I shook my head, scoffing. Incredible performance, I muttered. Shame to waste it on real life. Her expression soured. Still, after a few seconds of hesitation, she finally turned to Julian and said firmly. Julian. Apologize to Aaron. He looked like she'd slapped him. What? Why should I? Because I said so, she snapped. Just do it. Her tone was sharp. Unyielding. Julian's eyes reddened, his voice trembling with practiced heartbreak. Do you not like me anymore? That did it. Vanessa's tough exterior cracked, just a little. Her glare softened. Her lips parted like she wanted to explain, to smooth it over. And that's when I'd had enough. The whole display, their back and forth, the fake tears, the endless drama, made my stomach turn. I turned on my heel and walked off. Vanessa scrambled to follow. But before she could catch up, Charlotte stepped forward, suddenly blocking her path. Move, Vanessa snapped, face tightening. Charlotte didn't budge. Why should I? Her voice was cool. Direct. Unapologetic. I turned and saw the two of them squared off, tension thick in the air. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Let's go, I said, gently pulling Charlotte back. They're not worth the energy. Charlotte nodded, falling into step beside me as we stepped onto the escalator, leaving Vanessa and Julian behind. Vanessa kept following us. And Julian, after a moment of hesitation, gritted his teeth and jogged to catch up, too. My patience was wearing thin. So much for a peaceful weekend. Just ignore them, Charlotte whispered, tugging gently at my sleeve. I forced a small smile. Yeah. Okay. From behind us, Vanessa saw the exchange, and her jaw clenched so tight it looked like she might snap a tooth. She suddenly surged forward and shoved Charlotte out of the way. "Aaron! That's enough." Her voice cracked through the mall like a slap. "I get it, okay? I was wrong before. But if you come home with me now, I'll cut things off with Julian. Completely." I was caught off guard. Didn't she adore Julian? Wouldn't my leaving be exactly what she wanted? So why was she suddenly saying this? And judging by her expression, she wasn't bluffing. But the truth was, I didn't care. Even if she never spoke to Julian again, what difference did it make? Some things don't go back to how they were. A shattered mirror doesn't become whole just because you stop breaking it. Julian's face went pale. "You're serious?" Vanessa didn't turn. Her eyes stayed locked on mine. That silence said everything. I saw the anger flicker in Julian's expression. Hurt twisted into something darker. He stormed forward and grabbed Vanessa, pulling her into his arms, his voice cracking with rage. "Why? I've been by your side for 2 years. And now you're done? Just like that? What the hell do you think I am, some toy you toss out when you're bored? 2 years." My stomach dropped. And then came the laugh, low, bitter, stunned. So they'd been at it for 2 years. I shouldn't have been surprised. But somehow, I still was. There was a flicker of nausea in my chest, thinking back to all the nights I held her, trusted her, believed in something that had already died. "You shut your mouth." Vanessa snapped, wrenching herself free. Then, crack, she slapped him. Hard. Julian staggered, stunned, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You're really just done with me?" he choked out. "I was there for you. 2 years. That counts for something, doesn't it?" His voice broke as his anger boiled over, red flooding his eyes. "You owe me an explanation." Vanessa turned, ice in her voice, her posture razor sharp. "Last warning, Julian. Know your place. If you ever bring this up again, don't blame me for what happens next." I stood off to the side, watching it all unfold, completely unfazed. None of it surprised me anymore. Julian was young, full of energy, and knew exactly how to charm women. But he didn't understand Vanessa, not really. Maybe she liked him at first. Maybe. But what she liked wasn't him, it was his obedience. Even his little mood swings, the occasional tantrum. She saw them as entertainment. A playful twist in their power dynamic. But the second he stepped out of line, the second he irritated her, she had zero tolerance. I could see why he snapped. I got it. He wasn't just clinging to her for sex. It went deeper than that. Vanessa gave him a life he could never have built on his own. She made him feel important. Kept him comfortable. And losing her? That meant losing everything. So of course he was desperate to hold on. But when he looked into her eyes now, cold, flat, done, he hesitated. The panic in him flickered. His confidence cracked. Then, after a long pause, he turned and looked at me. His voice was strained, laced with frustration and something close to a plea. "If you don't love Vanessa anymore, then why can't you just let her go? You've got a new girlfriend. Why are you still fighting me for her?" A few short sentences, and just like that, Julian flipped the narrative. On the surface, it sounded like a complaint. But underneath? It was a quiet smear campaign. He was trying to paint me as the problem. The one still clinging. Still competing. And sure enough, Vanessa's face darkened immediately. I let out a cold laugh. "You kidding me right now? The only reason this mess is still going is because your girl refuses to sign the divorce papers. Not because I'm fighting you for her. What makes you think I'd ever fight over a woman who cheated on me? Vanessa's jaw tightened. Charlotte, meanwhile, was grinning so wide it looked like Christmas came early. Exactly, she chirped, practically bouncing as she grabbed my arm. Let's go. Vanessa moved like she was going to follow, but Julian grabbed her, desperate. You can't leave. Vanessa turned slowly, her gaze like a blade. You really want to see me lose my temper? Julian flinched, but didn't back down. Not right away. They wrestled with each other for a while, tension building like a storm, but in the end, Julian caved. He left. Of course he did. Because no matter how loud he barked, he knew what he really was, Vanessa's pet. A kept man with no spine of his own. Once he was out of the picture, Vanessa suddenly had a lot more free time. So much, in fact, she started showing up outside my office every morning with breakfast in hand. Bento boxes, she called them, handmade, under her name, wrapped in ribbon like some schoolgirl crush. At night, she'd be waiting at the curb with a bouquet of flowers, pretending it was spontaneous. Smiling like nothing had happened. And of course, the office picked up on it fast. People started whispering. Teasing. Gossiping behind closed doors. Some people started whispering. Saying I was the real scumbag, married, yet clearly entangled with Charlotte. That I was stringing along 2 women at once. Didn't matter which version of the story they believed. All of it felt like noise. Exhausting, petty noise. So the next time Vanessa showed up outside my office, standing there like she owned the sidewalk, I didn't avoid her. I walked straight up to her. Her face lit up instantly, relieved, almost smug. What? She asked, eyes glinting. Changed your mind? No, I said flatly. Let's pick a date and finalize the divorce. Her smile cracked. The joy vanished from her face, replaced by stunned silence. I felt nothing. Not bitterness, not anger. Just, tired. 5 years. 5 years of betrayal, gaslighting, and emotional whiplash. This marriage didn't need saving, it needed a proper burial. Vanessa's lips parted. Her eyes filled slowly with red. You're really this heartless, she whispered. After everything we've been through, you can just walk away. I shook my head. Vanessa, if you had noticed me, really noticed me, even once in the past 5 years, you wouldn't be asking that. I gave you chance after chance to come back. You chose not to. So don't stand here now acting like you're the one who's been left behind. Stop chasing me. All it's doing is making me resent you more. I paused, then added, quiet but firm. You're not alone anymore, remember? You know what kind of fallout this will cause if you keep creating scenes in public. The warning was clear. Enough was enough. I didn't bother hiding the warning in my voice. Vanessa went pale. She couldn't believe it. The man who once treated her like a treasure, was now threatening her just to finalize a divorce. When did you become so cruel? She asked, her voice tight with pain. I didn't answer. Who stays the same for 5 years? I tried. God knows I tried. But reality doesn't reward good intentions. Holding on to your original heart? That's just self-delusion. I held on. It changed nothing. Vanessa still betrayed me. So tell me, I said quietly. What right do you have to question me now? She had no answer. Tears welled at the corners of her eyes, threatening to fall. After a long silence, she finally looked up. Her voice was hoarse. Can you give me a little time? I'm not ready yet. I don't want it to end like this. Not so suddenly. Can we end it properly? Please. I knew if I said no, she'd just keep showing up. Keep escalating. So I nodded. What else was there to say? In the days that followed, Vanessa went right back to her old tactics. Breakfast deliveries. Bouquets of fresh flowers. Gift boxes wrapped in expensive ribbons. Every morning, my desk was buried under the clutter of her so-called affection. There was no hiding it. And of course, the office noticed. People whispered. Some laughed. A few actually thought all of it came from Charlotte. I had to step in. No, I waved it off. Probably a mistake. Wrong delivery. One colleague raised an eyebrow. Every single day? That's one hell of a mistake. They didn't buy it. Not for a second. I didn't bother explaining further. Instead, I walked over to my desk, picked up the flowers and the gifts in front of everyone, and dropped the whole pile into the trash. Gasps rippled through the room. That's a waste, someone muttered. And then, Charlotte. She appeared out of nowhere, arms crossed, a teasing glare in her eyes. Wow, she said, voice edged with sarcasm. Just tossing it out like that? Cold. I shrugged. It's not mine. Trash is where it belongs. Charlotte scrunched her nose, mock offended. You really don't know how to appreciate a good gift. Then she spun around and stomped off, dramatic, irritated, and just a little too cute to take seriously. To everyone watching, that little scene confirmed it. Me and Charlotte, something was going on. I could feel the heat of their stares. The smirks. The not-so-subtle nudges. I gave a helpless smile. Truth was, I wasn't so sure myself. I'd done some digging into Charlotte's background. She wasn't just some assistant, they'd assigned me the CEO's daughter. From what I'd heard, she'd never taken work seriously. And as for relationships? Even less so. The boss had practically torn his hair out over it. But Charlotte was impossible to manage. Too clever, too unpredictable. Nothing ever stuck. He'd even joked once, half seriously, half not, that maybe she didn't like men at all. Until I showed up. I sighed. No way. Girls like Charlotte, flawless face, knockout figure, wealthy family, don't fall for guys like me. Not in the real world. So when the whispers got louder, I could only say, guys, come on. Don't joke about stuff like this. It can mess with people's lives. A voice piped up behind me, light, amused, and just a little sharp. Oh. Charlotte. So what you're saying is, you're worried I'm messing with your life? I didn't even realize Charlotte had come back. But there she was, behind me, her voice soft but cutting. So I'm ruining your life now? I turned around, caught off guard. You know that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? She stepped closer, eyes locked on mine. There was a sharpness to her tone, playful, but not entirely joking. I stumbled for a response. Getting caught like that, talking behind someone's back and getting busted by the person herself, yeah, awkward didn't even begin to cover it. I was just making conversation. Don't take it the wrong way. Charlotte gave me a strange look but let it drop. Just as I was about to come up with an excuse to escape the conversation, she said it, quiet, almost casual. By the way, those flowers today? I sent them. I froze. You? She nodded. I scratched the back of my head, suddenly embarrassed. Ah. I didn't know. Sorry about that. It's fine, she said, smiling like it was no big deal. But next time? Don't throw them away. Then her smile sharpened just a bit. As for that woman? I'll talk to security. Make sure she stops hanging around. If it gets worse, let me know. I've got plenty of ways to make sure she never bothers you again. I didn't doubt that for a second. Her father was a serious power player in the industry. And Charlotte wasn't exactly the type to be underestimated. Still, I politely declined. Things between us were already towing the line at work. One wrong step and the whole thing could blow up in our faces. I didn't want people thinking I was getting close to the boss's daughter for the sake of convenience, or worse, that I'd gotten this far because of her. Because I hadn't. Everything I'd built, I earned the hard way. And I wasn't about to let a rumor rewrite that. After work, Vanessa showed up again. I let out a sigh, the frustration already rising. What do you want now? You don't have anything better to do? I didn't bother hiding the disgust in my eyes. Vanessa's lashes were wet, her voice hoarse. I just want to make things right. There's no point. My voice was clipped, my brow furrowed. But she shook her head desperately. No, there is a point. I don't want us to end like this. Just give me a month. 1 month. If you still want a divorce after that, I'll sign. At that point, all I wanted was for it to be over. Whatever it took to get her out of my life for good. Do whatever you want. I turned to leave. But she grabbed my wrist. Let's have dinner. Just one meal. I clenched my jaw. Since deciding to end the marriage, being near her had become physically uncomfortable. Like wearing a shirt that no longer fit, tight, suffocating, wrong. I don't think so. I pulled my hand free, every word laced with impatience. She looked wounded. Her voice small. I just want to sit down and talk. 1 meal. That's all I'm asking. Once, that look on her face would have broken me. But now? Now, there was nothing in my eyes but indifference. Please. She was pleading. If you agree, I'll sign the divorce papers afterward. Just like I promised. I exhaled. Tired. Fine. I told myself it was a necessary trade. Just one more step toward cutting the final thread. She smiled, hopeful, relieved, and I got into the car. But instead of heading to a restaurant, Vanessa pulled into a supermarket parking lot. Let's shop a little, she said, grabbing a cart. Hands in my pockets, I followed without a word. She didn't mind the silence. She walked ahead on her own, glancing at the shelves, her voice barely above a whisper. I remember when we first got married, my stomach was a mess. You always made time to come here, buy fresh food, cook for me. Her voice caught. And just like that, it hit her, how many years had slipped by. How she'd managed to lose the one man who'd truly loved her. I said nothing. Not because I didn't have anything to say. But because there was simply nothing left to feel. If anything, I felt cheated. 5 years. 5 years I'd given to someone who never knew what to do with them. How many 5 years does a person get in one lifetime? Vanessa loaded up the cart with groceries. I noticed most of what she picked were things I liked. So no, she hadn't been clueless all these years. She just hadn't cared. At checkout, she glanced at the total and muttered under her breath, didn't realize beef prices had gone up this much. I threw out a casual question, half trying to lighten the mood. You buy beef often? But my answer came out colder than I intended. I walked away from everything. I don't exactly have the luxury to splurge on groceries. Her face stiffened. The silence that followed stretched all the way to the car. Then, once we were inside, she finally spoke, quietly. You don't have to do that, you know. My income's a lot higher than yours. I could. I don't need it. I cut her off. I didn't want help. I wanted closure. I didn't want her guilt. I wanted her signature. Vanessa didn't reply. Just stared ahead, lips pressed tight. The kind of silence people use when they think not talking might make the truth go away. When we got back to the house, she carried the bags into the kitchen and started prepping. I stood there for a second, watching her move around like this was normal. Like none of it had happened. It threw me a little. It had been a long time since I'd seen a kitchen being used for more than coffee and takeout containers. Living alone had stripped away the habit. Cooking for one just felt pointless. Most nights, I didn't bother. For a moment, it almost felt like it used to. Back when we first got married, I cooked all the time. We didn't have much, but we made it work. And we were happy, or at least I thought we were. Then came the distance. Then came Julian. And after that, the dinner table became just another empty space between us. I stared at the dishes on the table, nothing fancy, but clearly made with care. Still, I had no appetite. "You didn't have to cook this much," I said. "It's just the two of us. We won't finish it." "It's fine," Vanessa replied lightly. "We'll eat what we can." She sounded like the perfect wife. Calm, gentle, domesticated. But I knew better. This was all theater. If she could fake affection, faking a little housewife act wasn't much of a stretch. I picked at the food. Ate a few bites, just enough to keep things moving. Vanessa looked like she wanted to say something, her lips parted slightly, but in the end, she stayed quiet. The silence stretched on. Heavy. Claustrophobic. After dinner, she stood up and took the dishes to the kitchen without a word. The same woman who used to pride herself on her elegance, her manicured hands untouched by housework, now stood at the sink in an apron, washing plates like it was second nature. If anyone from the outside saw this, they'd be shocked. Then again, maybe not. Julian probably saw this version of her all the time. The soft-spoken, attentive Vanessa. Cooking. Cleaning. Playing the part of the doting partner. At home with me, she never lifted a finger. But watching her now, her hands moved like this wasn't new. Like she'd done it hundreds of times. I sat on the couch, unmoving. I didn't stop her. Didn't comment. Didn't care. You can't wake someone who's pretending to be asleep. And she'd been pretending for years. Once the kitchen was spotless, Vanessa walked over and sat down beside me, like she belonged there. Like nothing had changed. I frowned and stood up, walking straight into the study without a word. Behind me, Vanessa's expression crumpled into something close to grief. Was I really at the point where I couldn't even stand to sit next to her? Apparently, yes. As night fell, I heard the shower running. My jaw clenched. So she wasn't planning to leave after all? I stepped out of the study, walked to the bathroom door, and spoke flatly, no warmth, no room for misinterpretation. "When you're done, leave." The sound of running water from the bathroom suddenly cut off, followed by a loud clang. Something had hit the floor. I didn't check. Didn't call out. Instead, I turned and walked straight into the bedroom, locking the door behind me. A few minutes later, there was a knock. Vanessa's voice came softly through the wood, tinged with something between defeat and hesitation. I just want to talk. Can you please open the door?" "I'm tired," I said sharply. "Not in the mood for this." Silence. Then the soft sound of her footsteps fading down the hallway. I exhaled. Should have known better than to let her back in at all. The next morning, she was up early again, waiting with a homemade breakfast already plated. In the bathroom, I noticed a new set of toiletries sitting neatly by the sink. She was moving in. I stared at them for a beat, then, without a word, picked them up and dumped them in the trash right in front of her. She didn't say a thing. Just pulled out a backup set from her purse and placed them on the counter like it was nothing. That became the routine. Day after day, the same quiet battle. And it was draining me, mentally, physically, emotionally. Then, Just when I felt like I couldn't take any more, Charlotte found me in the hallway. "Pack your stuff," she said with a grin. "You're coming on a business trip." I blinked. Business trip? No one had mentioned anything. But I didn't question it. I was relieved. A few days away sounded like a godsend. A clean break, even if only temporary. I smiled. "Got it." Charlotte narrowed her eyes, still smiling. "You look weirdly happy about this." "Something like that," I said, keeping the rest to myself. When I got home, Vanessa wasn't there. Perfect. I went straight to the bedroom and started packing. But just as I zipped up the suitcase, the front door opened. Vanessa walked in carrying grocery bags. She froze when she saw the luggage in my hand. "You're leaving again?" she asked, voice small. "Leaving?" I let out a sharp laugh. "This is my home. I come and go as I please. I don't need your permission." She flinched. "That's not what I meant. I'm going on a business trip tomorrow," I said, pushing past her. "While I'm gone, pack your things and leave. Stop pretending this is your place." Vanessa grabbed my arm, panic flashing across her face. "A business trip? Why didn't you tell me earlier?" "Why would I?" I shook off her grip, the bitterness in my voice barely restrained. "You never told me when you left. Remember? Every time you traveled for work, how many of those were just weekends with Julian?" Her expression cracked. For a second, she looked like she wanted to defend herself, but the words wouldn't come. She couldn't. "When will you be back?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's none of your business." I turned to leave. But she darted forward, eyes suddenly wet, and yanked the suitcase from my hand. "I don't agree to this," she shouted. "You can't just walk away." I let out a long breath, tired to the bone. "What's the point, Vanessa? You know me. When I make a decision, I don't look back. You might be able to slow me down, but you'll never stop me." "I can stop you," she snapped, eyes wild. Then she lunged, arms thrown around me, trying to kiss me. I recoiled instantly, disgusted. She froze. And then the tears came, fast, heavy, unstoppable. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why are you doing this to me?" She pounded her fists against my chest, broken and furious. I looked down at her, my face unreadable. Cold. "You already know why," I said quietly. "So stop pretending you don't." She stopped moving. Because I was right. She did know. She'd always known. But instead of fixing what she broke, she spent every day pretending it wasn't her fault, and expecting me to keep forgiving her. I gently pried her arms away, grabbed the suitcase, and walked out the door. Vanessa didn't try to stop me again. She just sank to the floor as I walked out, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. I didn't look back. I checked into a hotel that night. Sometime past midnight, Charlotte texted me. "Want me to pick you up from your place tomorrow?" I sent her the hotel address, turned off my phone, and, for the first time in a long while, slept deeply. The next morning, her call woke me. "I'm downstairs. You ready?" "Yeah. Just need a minute." After a quick wash, I grabbed my suitcase and headed to the lobby. And right there at the entrance, I saw them, Charlotte and Vanessa, locked in a tense standoff. I walked up calmly, eyes fixed on Vanessa. "What are you doing here?" She looked at me, eyes swollen, staring daggers at Charlotte. Her voice was sharp. "This is your business trip? With her? Who did you think I'd be with? You?" I snapped. "It's work. Something not everyone turns into an excuse for an affair." Her face drained of color. Charlotte rolled her eyes and casually tossed me the keys. You drive. I'm not in the mood. Got it. We got in the car and drove off, Vanessa shrinking in the rearview mirror. I didn't give her a single glance. Seriously, I asked once we were cruising down the highway, what happened with you two back there? Charlotte reclined lazily in her seat, eyes half-lidded. I was about to ask you that. I showed up and she was just sitting there. In the hotel lobby. Waiting. She sat up, glancing over at me, brows raised. You sure you weren't with her last night? I shot her a look. Don't be ridiculous. Then I filled her in, everything that had happened over the past few days. Charlotte whistled softly, eyebrows climbing. Damn. Girls committed. I shook my head, eyes still on the road. To me, it's just exhausting. Charlotte couldn't help curling her lips into a grin, lightly humming along with the radio. Clearly, she was in a good mood. At the airport, I spotted a few coworkers milling about and raised a brow. This trip's for a big deal or something? The lineup felt too formal for a standard client meeting. Charlotte just shook her head, all mysterious. You'll see when we get there. I chuckled and didn't push. Honestly, I was just relieved to get a break from Vanessa, whatever the reason. And with the boss's daughter leading the charge, it wasn't exactly my place to question the plan. Once we boarded the plane, Charlotte knocked out cold almost instantly. Girl looked like she hadn't slept in days. I flagged down a flight attendant for a blanket and draped it over her. Even in sleep, her brows were furrowed like she was deep in some kind of battle. But at least she was resting. I was just about to get some shut-eye myself when I felt a soft weight on my shoulder. Her head. I glanced over. And left it. She stayed like that the whole flight, until the descent began and the announcement crackled on overhead. Charlotte stirred, blinking herself awake. You're up, I said. She noticed her head still resting on my shoulder and quickly sat up, face a little pink. Sorry. I stayed up way too late last night. Working? Nope. Gaming. The way she said it, so matter-of-fact, made me blink, then shake my head with a half-laugh. You're something else. After we landed, the other coworkers peeled off in their own directions. I made to follow, but Charlotte tugged on my sleeve. We're not with them, she said. Someone's coming to pick us up. I raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Still, the looks we got from our colleagues before they walked off, those smug, knowing little smirks, left a weird feeling in my gut. Not long after, a black van pulled up in front of us. We climbed in, and the driver took us out toward the suburbs. What kind of business deal happens this far out? I joked. You're not selling me off, are you? Charlotte rolled her eyes. Please. You're not even worth a down payment. Fair enough. I let the silence settle as the van pulled through the gates of what I expected to be a modest retreat, and turned out to be a full-blown private estate. Calling it a villa didn't cut it. This was a damn resort. I stood there, blinking like an idiot. A small team of staff, yes, actual uniformed staff, approached, took our luggage with practiced ease, and nodded respectfully. Miss Henry, allow us. Charlotte handed off her suitcase like she'd done this 100 times. That's when it clicked. This is Henry family property. I was assigned a room right next to hers. As we dropped off our things, Charlotte let out a long stretch. I'm crashing for a bit. Wake me up this afternoon. I nodded, wandered around the grounds for a while, then headed back to my room to nap. Not sure if it was the stress or the string of sleepless nights lately, but when I finally opened my eyes, the sun had already gone down. I jolted awake, sitting up fast and grabbing my phone. No missed calls, just one unread text. From Charlotte. You pig. I told you to wake me, and you're the one still snoring? Timestamp, 2 hours ago. I cursed under my breath and immediately called her. She picked up after a ring. My bad, I said. Overslept. Well, at least you know it, she huffed, her voice tinged with playful annoyance. You pig, I came knocking like 5 times. I gave a sheepish laugh and tried to steer things back to neutral. Hope I didn't mess up the schedule? Who cares about schedules? Get your butt downstairs, we're eating. The more relaxed she sounded, the more out of place I felt. This didn't feel like a business trip at all. It felt like she dragged me along on a vacation. When I got downstairs, I was surprised to see our other co-workers seated at the long dining table. The same people who'd split off at the airport. Now they were all here, and judging by the untouched dishes, they'd been waiting on me. I gave a stiff smile, offering a small bow. Sorry to keep everyone waiting. One of the guys immediately waved it off. No, not at all, we should apologize for disturbing your rest, Mr. West. Mr. West? Before I could ask what the hell that was about, Charlotte slapped her hand against the table. All right, enough small talk. Let's eat. Everyone bowed their heads and started shoveling food into their mouths like they'd been trained not to speak in her presence. Somehow, that made things even more awkward. I sat down, acutely aware of every move I made. But when I caught Charlotte looking at me with those bright, expectant eyes, I couldn't bring myself to brush her off. So I took a bite. And immediately regretted it. The steak didn't taste like steak. It tasted like salt. Just salt. I forced a polite smile. Not bad. Just a little salty. That was generous. If anything, it felt like I'd just eaten a spoonful of ocean water. Was salt on sale or something? Charlotte beamed. If you like it, eat more. Before I could protest, she dropped a few more pieces of steak onto my plate. I went quiet. That dinner felt less like a meal and more like an endurance test. Thankfully, after taking a bite of the steak herself, Charlotte stopped piling food onto my plate. She quietly pulled the dish toward her and focused on eating. Still, the damage was done. Our co-workers were now fully convinced we were more than just colleagues. After dinner, one of them came up to me with a grin. Mr. West, hope the food was to your liking? I was mid-gulp, chugging water like my life depended on it. His words nearly made me choke. I forced a smile that looked more like a grimace. Why yeah, it was great. He blinked, clearly unsettled. Are you okay? You don't look so good. Just thirsty, I muttered, eager to end the conversation before the salt in my mouth killed me. That's when Charlotte walked over with a fresh bottle of water. Here. Drink more. I nodded, embarrassed. Thanks. She narrowed her eyes. You should have said something if it tasted bad. I thought you liked it. Ignoring the raised eyebrows from the others, she grabbed my arm. Come on, walk with me. I haven't seen the night view around here. I was about to decline when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I glanced at the screen and instantly frowned. Vanessa. I hit decline. Seconds later, it rang again. I declined again. She called a third time. I sighed and reached to power off the phone when Charlotte leaned over. Who is it? Before I could answer, she snatched the phone from my hand and answered it herself. Hello? Who is this? On the other end, Vanessa practically exploded. You bitch. Why the hell do you have Aaron's phone? Charlotte held the phone away from her ear, letting Vanessa scream until she ran out of breath. Then, completely unfazed, she replied coolly. You are exhausting. We're busy right now, don't have time for your tantrums. Busy? Vanessa's mind went into overdrive. This late at night, just the two of us, What kind of business could we possibly be doing? Images she didn't want to imagine started flashing through her head. Something was definitely going on between us. She was sure of it. If you dare make a move on my husband, I swear. Charlotte cut her off. Correction, soon-to-be ex-husband. And what I do or don't do with him is none of your business. She didn't even pause before going in for the kill. You cheated in your marriage. You're in no position to play victim or bark orders at me. Then, without waiting for a reply, she ended the call. And turned off my phone. Here, she said, handing it back to me with a satisfied smirk. I looked at her, somewhere between impressed and exasperated. You really enjoyed that, huh? Of course I did. She gave a little huff. You're way too nice. That woman doesn't deserve an ounce of your patience. I didn't argue. After a long silence, I finally said, quietly, thanks. And I meant it. I really was thankful for Charlotte. We were nothing more than casual acquaintances. Yet Charlotte kept stepping in, shielding me again and again from all the mess. Whatever her reasons were, it didn't change the fact, I owed her that thank you. She didn't say anything in return. Just shook her head, a faint shadow passing through her eyes. We strolled quietly through the garden outside the villa, neither of us in a rush to speak. After a long pause, I heard her mutter under her breath. If I'd known things would turn out this way. I should have made the first move back then. I turned my head. What? Nothing, nothing. She waved it off quickly, then changed the subject. Hey, were you already dating that woman back in college? Yeah, I nodded. I wasn't exactly thrilled to talk about Vanessa, but Charlotte seemed unusually curious, firing off question after question. Suddenly, she stopped in front of me, eyes lit with something I couldn't quite name. You know, she said, I went to the same university as you. That caught me off guard. Seriously? She didn't answer directly, just launched into stories from her college days, animated and playful. At first, I listened with interest. Then things started clicking. Too many overlaps. Too many details. Wait, I narrowed my eyes. You were in the same class as Vanessa? Charlotte went quiet. It took her a long moment before she finally spoke, her voice low and steady. You know, Aaron. I regret it. I really liked you back then. But you were so in love with Vanessa. I couldn't stand watching it, so I left. By the time I came back, I heard you'd gotten married. I figured that was it for us, no more chances. Until one day, my dad mentioned your name. She looked over at me, serious now. He said you weren't doing well. That you seemed held back. Like you'd forgotten how to live. And when I found out you were getting divorced, I'll be honest, I was relieved. And it broke my heart at the same time. There was something bitter on her face. A quiet hurt that hadn't quite healed. I stood there stunned. Like my brain just froze. Charlotte's sudden confession hit me like a cold bucket of water and warm sun at the same time. Part of me thought it had to be a joke. You running a fever or something? I actually reached out and touched her forehead. She pouted, swatting my hand away. Stop it. I'm not sick. I'm not drunk. I'm just telling you the truth, I like you. I always have. She'd already missed her chance once. She wasn't going to let it slip by again. Especially not now. Not with Vanessa constantly showing up, refusing to let go. Charlotte knew how deep I'd loved Vanessa once. And that scared her more than she was willing to admit. That's why she insisted on this trip. Why she made sure to pull me away from Vanessa, even if it was just for a little while. Men are logical, until it comes to the women they love. Then we get soft. Stupid, even. Charlotte knew that. Knew there was still a chance I might fold under Vanessa's relentless guilt trips and crocodile tears. And selfish as it was, she wanted one thing, for me to go through with the divorce. She took a deep breath, staring at me with those wide, pleading eyes. I really like you. Please, just give me a chance. That's all I'm asking. Her voice was so low, so vulnerable, it damn near cracked something open in my chest. I didn't know what to say. Didn't even know what I felt, exactly. But then Charlotte suddenly gave me a solid slap on the shoulder and grinned like nothing happened. Forget it. Let's go walk around or something. I exhaled, grateful for the change of subject, and followed her out. The next few days were, oddly peaceful. Charlotte dragged me all over the estate, through gardens, along trails, even to the lake at dawn. She never once brought up work. It felt weird. Too easy. Something about all of it made me nervous. Like I was being lulled into forgetting the storm waiting back home. Eventually, I asked her. Hey, this all feels a little off. We're supposed to be working, right? Charlotte just shrugged, completely unfazed. We are. This is part of the job. You call this work? She turned to me with a perfectly straight face. This entire estate is our next potential investment. We're not playing, we're experiencing the product as future clients would. I stared at her, half impressed, half unsure if she was bullshitting me. You're serious? As a heart attack, she said, nodding solemnly. So please, stay focused. Your feedback could determine whether this project even moves forward. Just like that, she flipped the switch. Now I was suddenly an important decision maker again. All right then, I said, trying to look serious. I'll give it my best. Charlotte smirked, pleased. And just like that, the days kept slipping by. Before I knew it, we'd been here more than 2 weeks. The quiet, the lack of deadlines, the warm meals and good sleep, it was all getting too comfortable. Honestly, I was starting to worry I'd forgotten how to work. My hands felt stiff. My instincts rusty. Like I'd gone soft. Hey, I said one night, stretching out on the balcony. Shouldn't we be heading back soon? A month had passed. So, when are we getting the divorce? Vanessa's face dimmed. Do you really want to go through with it that badly? Aaron, we've been together for so many years. Are you really this cold? I just want another chance to love you again. Please. I promise, I won't get involved with anyone else ever again. Okay? I had expected this. Of course she wasn't going to let go that easily. Still, hearing her repeat the same words again made something in me twist, less pain, more disgust. The way she kept begging, circling back like this, it didn't move me. It sickened me. Stop wasting both our time, I said flatly. I already told you, there's no future for us. Nothing you say is going to change my mind. Let it go, Vanessa. Her face tightened with frustration. But why? There is no why. My voice was calm. Controlled. We've been together long enough that you should know me better than this. I'd already swallowed years of this, bit down my anger, buried my pride. Once, I really did believe we'd grow old together. That love could weather anything. That's why I forgave her. Over and over. That's why I stayed, even when every part of me was breaking. But after 5 years, I finally saw the truth. Vanessa wasn't the kind of person you could build forever with. Maybe there was a time she truly wanted a home. A family. But the moment she had it, she started craving something else. Vanessa's eyes filled with something close to panic, raw, desperate. She had always believed she understood me. She thought all she had to do was lower her head, and I'd come running back like I always did. That's why she never held back. Why she never cared how much it hurt me. But now, for the first time, she realized. I wasn't in love with her anymore. I wanted the divorce with the same conviction I once had when I asked to marry her. No regrets. No second-guessing. I'm sorry, Aaron. I turned to leave. But suddenly, Vanessa lunged forward and wrapped her arms around me from behind, locking her hands tight around my waist. I should be the one apologizing. I'm sorry, baby, I should have paid more attention to how you felt. I swear, I'll never see Julian again. No, wait. I'll fire him tomorrow, okay? Just, please don't leave me. I didn't respond. I simply reached down and pried her hands off me, slow and steady. This wasn't the first time I'd heard these promises. And we both knew it wouldn't be the last. Back when Vanessa first brought Julian on board as her personal assistant, I already felt uneasy. It wasn't jealousy, it was instinct. He was young, attractive, and male. And with the kind of time assistants and executives spend together, too much proximity was inevitable. Vanessa had laughed it off. She wrapped her arms around me playfully and grinned. Ah, is my husband jealous? If you don't like it, I'll switch him out for a female assistant tomorrow. You're the only one I care about, no one's taking me away from you. I won't lie. That got to me. In a good way. What we had always worked because we were direct with each other. No games. No dancing around the truth. But she didn't follow through. Not only did she keep Julian around, she brought him to our wedding anniversary dinner. She brushed it off with a wave of her hand. Said Julian was smart, polite, harmless. He's just a kid, babe. Why are you being so petty? Lighten up. That moment? That was the beginning of the end. She broke a promise. A small one, maybe. But even small fractures splinter deep when they hit the same spot over and over again. I didn't fight her on it. Didn't argue. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe my silence gave her permission. Their relationship grew closer. Too close. Frequent touches. Lingering glances. Whispers that didn't belong in a workplace, or a marriage. I felt myself slipping further into silence. Into doubt. Still, I tried talking to her. People in the office had noticed. There were whispers behind closed doors, smirks passed in the hallway. It wasn't just me seeing it anymore. But every time I brought it up, Vanessa would snap. You know I hate working. I finally found an assistant who actually makes it fun, and now you want to micromanage me? Don't forget, this is my company. I'll run it how I want. For the sake of our home, for whatever love we still had, I let it go. Then one day, Julian made a mistake. A serious one. I called him into my office, just to address it. Vanessa stormed in like I'd declared war. What the hell is your problem? He's new. Everyone makes mistakes. Why are you always targeting him? I tried to keep calm. He's not just anyone. He's your assistant. If he screws up, it doesn't just reflect on him, it affects the entire company. Vanessa scoffed. So what, you want to fire him now? Before I could answer, Julian stepped forward with a perfectly rehearsed look of remorse. I'm sorry, Mr. West, he said, bowing slightly. I know you don't like me. I'll submit my resignation. Just please don't fight with Ms. Sterling because of me. That was all it took. Vanessa's fury ignited. She pointed at me, her voice sharp and shaking with anger. Is that what you want? To ruin someone's life? Julian came to this city alone, he's just trying to survive, and you're acting like he's some criminal. Then she grabbed his arm and stormed off. And just like that, the issue was buried. That incident sealed it for me. After that day, whatever trust one had left in her, was gone. There's no need to apologize, I told her, my voice cold. Let's just move on with our separate lives. Vanessa froze. Her face went pale, like the blood had drained right out of her. Her voice trembled. Wait, what are you saying? Are you really going to divorce me? I met her eyes, calm and clear. Yes. I'll have the paperwork drawn up. All you'll need to do is sign. Then I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard her break, really break. Aaron. She was crying now. Loud, ragged sobs echoing off the walls. But I didn't turn around. Didn't hesitate. Our story had already reached its end. That night, Vanessa sent over a file. It was a heavily edited voice recording, choppy, hollow, barely coherent. I had no idea what she was trying to say. Was this supposed to prove she didn't cheat? That broken audio clip was her version of a defense? I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Then came the photos. She sent dozens, pictures of us through the years. Vacations. Our wedding. Even college. I stared at the memories flickering across the screen, one by one. For a second, something inside me paused. We really did love each other once. She used to curl up in my arms like a kid, clinging to me with wide eyes and soft giggles. She'd throw harmless tantrums over nothing, just to get my attention. I remembered her cooking a birthday meal for me once, burnt, salty, a total disaster, but made with love. Those were good memories. Warm, stupid, real. But they belonged to a version of us that no longer existed. The people in those photos? They were gone. So after a long moment, I deleted them all. I'd made my decision. There was no point holding on. Looking back only wastes time. When the lawyer finally delivered the divorce documents, I called her. The paperwork's ready. I'll bring it to your office. She didn't respond. Just stayed silent for a long time, then hung up. I stared down at the documents. Just like I'd asked, the lawyer had listed me as walking away with nothing. No assets. No conditions. No strings. A clean break. My way of ending this with whatever dignity we had left. I picked up the pen and signed my name, deliberate, steady. With every stroke, memories flooded in. Our first meeting. Our first hug. Our first kiss. Giving up grad school for her, she'd called me an idiot for that. Sitting beside her mother's hospital bed, promising I'd love her forever. By the time I finished the last letter of my name, a single tear had slipped onto the page, smearing the ink. I didn't wipe it away. The good memories, I'd keep. The painful ones, I'd leave behind. But one thing was certain. There was no going back. Not now. Not ever. It's time to end this. I wiped the corner of my eye, grabbed the divorce agreement, and headed straight for Vanessa's office. When I arrived at the company, it was clear Vanessa had given instructions. No one stopped me. I moved through the building without a single interruption. At her office door, I took a deep breath, then stepped inside. Vanessa was seated at her desk. It had only been 3 days, but she looked like a different person. Pale. Hollow. Like all the fight had drained out of her. When she saw me, a weak smile tugged at her lips, one that looked more like crying than comfort. You came. I nodded, walked over, and placed the divorce papers on her desk. Take a look. If everything looks fine, just sign. She didn't move. Didn't even glance at the documents. Her eyes were red, locked on mine. Do we really have to go through with this? You know I love you, right? I kept my gaze down. Said nothing. What was there to say? Maybe she had loved me, once. But whatever that love used to be, it had turned into something else a long time ago. Something conditional. Controlling. Poisoned. Just sign, I said quietly. There was no point dragging this out any longer. Tears streamed freely down Vanessa's face as her hands trembled, unfolding the divorce papers. Just as she was about to sign, the office door swung open. It was the company's vice president. "Ms. Sterling, about that project." He spotted me and lit up with relief. "Thank God. You're finally back. That project's been killing me, can you jump in, Anne? I'm not here to rejoin the company." I cut him off. Then turned back to Vanessa. "Sign it." She took a deep breath and closed the folder. "I will. But I want one condition." I frowned. "I'm already walking away with nothing, and you still have the nerve to ask for terms?" She bit her lip, then said carefully. "The project you negotiated is too important. If you agree to see it through to the end, I'll sign the papers. And I promise, after that, I'll never bother you again." She paused, then added. "And I'll give you 10% of the profits." I nodded. "Fine." At this point, there was no reason to say no. Especially since, truthfully, I needed the money. But the moment I agreed, Vanessa called someone into the room. "Julian. He'll assist you on the project," she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stared at her in silence for a long beat, then let out a low, dry laugh. "What is this, training day? You want me to mentor him now?" Vanessa dropped her eyes, clearly uncomfortable. "You're leaving. I need someone to take over after. Julian's from a top university. As long as you don't hold back, he'll do great." I shrugged. I wasn't going to waste my breath arguing. Julian shot me a smug little grin. "Looking forward to working with you." I didn't even acknowledge him. Just picked up the project files and walked out. The next few days, I threw myself into the project. Since I was the one who originally negotiated it, there wasn't much of a learning curve. Everything fell into place quickly. Julian, to his credit, played the part of the eager apprentice, hovering around, asking questions, offering help like he was desperate to learn. I didn't know what game he was playing, but I didn't bother holding anything back. Not because I was generous, just because I didn't care. Vanessa, meanwhile, kept putting on a show. Always looking tired. Tear-streaked. Hollow-eyed. Like she was some tragic figure crushed by heartbreak. Before long, the day of the project launch arrived. To boost the company's visibility, Vanessa went all out, inviting high-profile figures from the business world and throwing an elaborate banquet. Guests lined up to offer congratulations, champagne flowed, and glasses clinked non-stop. Vanessa smiled through it all, accepting every toast. It didn't take long before her cheeks flushed and her eyes turned glassy, her gaze drifting toward me. As the compliments piled on, she shook her head, tipsy and glowing. "No, no, this was all my husband's doing." Then she waved me over. "Honey, come here." I stayed where I was, frowning. Something felt off. And that's when I realized, Julian, who had been shadowing me all night, had quietly slipped away. A chill ran through me. Something wasn't right. Sure enough, the moment the client representative opened the project folder, his expression darkened. "What's the meaning of this?" Vanessa looked confused. "What's wrong?" The rep let out a dry scoff, his eyes cold with amusement as he looked her up and down. "Well, Miss Sterling. I didn't expect you to be quite this bold behind closed doors. But slipping something like this into an official proposal, what exactly are you trying to say? We came here to discuss business. Not admire your body." Vanessa froze. She lunged forward and snatched the folder out of his hands, then went pale. What is this? Project folder?" I frowned and stepped up beside her. I had compiled that folder myself. Every page. It shouldn't have had a single flaw. But the moment I saw the first page, my body went still. There, front and center, was a photo. Vanessa and Julian. Naked in bed. Entangled in a way no imagination needed help with. Before I could even process what I was seeing, Julian sprang into action, eyes wide, pointing straight at me like he'd rehearsed it. "Mr. West. This is disgusting. Even for you. I get that you want a divorce. I get that you're bitter that I finished the project on my own. But to stoop to this? To humiliate her like this? How is she supposed to face anyone after this?" Vanessa turned toward me, her expression crumbling with shock and fury. This was you? You did this?" Julian jumped in again, eyes blazing with righteous indignation. Of course it was him. He handled the folder. Who else could have done it? And you, after all your years with the company, how could you be this petty? This unprofessional? Vanessa's voice cracked with rage. Why? You wanted revenge that badly? Julian scoffed and sneered in my face. I've told you, we're just colleagues. You're the one with the twisted thoughts, imagining affairs that don't exist. You wanted the divorce? Fine. But dragging her down with you? That's just vile. She's a great woman. And she married the wrong man. That was the last straw for Vanessa. She lunged at me, pounding her fists against my chest. Her voice cracked between sobs, but before she could get a full sentence out, her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. Ms. Sterling. Julian dropped to his knees, catching her as she hit the floor. She clutched her chest, face contorted in pain. Julian turned toward the guards, shouting, panicked. Get him out. Now. Around us, whispers rippled through the room, judging stares, shaking heads. So much for years of love, all destroyed by jealousy. No matter what happened between them, this kind of retaliation? That's just cruel. The security guard started toward me, but stopped when they met my eyes. I didn't flinch. I didn't move. Just looked back at them, cold, calm, still. Julian barked again, louder this time. What are you waiting for? Get him out of here. I let out a short laugh. The kind you give a clown mid-performance. You're in such a rush to point fingers. Feeling guilty already? Julian's eyes darted for half a second. Guilty? Of what? You're the only one who had access to that folder. Who else could it be? I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and held it up. Exactly what I was wondering. That's why I installed a hidden camera in the office. So let's watch the footage, and find out who really did it. Julian panicked. He lunged for my phone without thinking. I didn't even flinch, just raised my leg and kicked him square in the chest. He went down hard. And in that instant, even the slowest minds in the room understood exactly what had happened. It was you. Vanessa's voice was raw, her eyes red and locked onto Julian like a blade. Julian scrambled back, hands flailing. Ms. Sterling, wait, please, let me explain. She didn't wait. Her palm cracked across his face, loud and sharp. Get him out of here. Security moved fast. They grabbed Julian by both arms, dragging him off the ground. He turned to me, eyes burning with rage. You were onto me from the beginning, weren't you? I gave a small shrug and smiled. Security camera? Please. There's no camera in that office. You exposed yourself. Because you knew you were guilty. Julian froze. And when the realization hit him, his face flushed deep red with fury. You son of a... I'll kill you. He thrashed violently, but the guards didn't give him a chance. They dragged him out the door like dead weight. I watched it all, then shook my head slowly. Classic case of setting your own trap, and falling right into it. Vanessa turned back to me, shame flickering across her face. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have doubted you. No need. I handed her the corrected project files. And don't forget to sign the divorce papers. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., courthouse steps. My job was done. No reason to stay another second. Vanessa's breath caught. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. All right. And just like that, Vanessa agreed to the divorce. I filed for immediate leave from the company. Before I left, Charlotte somehow caught wind of what was happening. She showed up at my side, just before I headed out. Want some company? She asked. I shook my head gently. No. I won't be gone long. She held my gaze for a few quiet seconds. Then nodded. Okay. On the flight home, my thoughts finally began to settle. I didn't feel sad. Not really. It wasn't grief, it was relief. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally stepping out of something that had weighed me down for years. By the time I reached the courthouse, I felt it completely, like I'd taken off a heavy set of chains I'd worn for far too long. Like I could finally breathe again. Vanessa wore a white dress. The same one I gave her when we first got together. Back then, she said it was too plain, said it didn't suit her. But today, she wore it anyway. I didn't need to ask why. Without a word, she stepped forward and gave me a soft hug. Thank you, she whispered. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. Then she turned and walked away. I watched her go for a moment. Then turned the other direction. I've made peace with the fact that I failed at love. But that doesn't mean I'll let it ruin the rest of me. A failed marriage doesn't mean a failed life. Maybe that's part of why she cheated in the first place. After Vanessa's career took off, her personality changed. Became colder. Sharper. She started craving control. Over everything. People. Situations. Outcomes. So when someone like Julian showed up, someone who did whatever she wanted, no questions asked, it was no surprise she strayed. Back at the office, Charlotte lit up the second she saw me. Before I could even sit down, she was already dragging department heads into a group chat, planning a dinner. Someone raised an eyebrow. What's the occasion? Charlotte folded her arms, smug and playful. Can't a girl be in a good mood without needing a reason? She knew she was being obvious. But she didn't care. I was divorced now. And her joy couldn't be contained. The other employees caught on immediately, grinning as they traded knowing looks. Well, I guess we've got Mr. West to thank for the invite, one of them joked. Rumors about us had been circling the company for a while now. Plenty of versions, none confirmed. But after today, no one really needed confirmation anymore. Everyone at the table burst into teasing laughter. I quickly tried to wave it off. No, it's nothing like that. The project's just made good progress, that's all. Worth celebrating, right? Charlotte stuck her tongue out playfully. Sure. Whatever you say. I'm just your assistant, I don't make the rules. It sounded harmless enough on the surface. But to everyone else, it came off like a sweet wife echoing her husband's words. The room lit up with even louder cheers and whistles. Thankfully, the topic didn't drag on for too long. Charlotte just sat quietly beside me, smiling without saying a word. By the time the dinner wrapped up, I was definitely tipsy, walking in a straight line was no longer guaranteed. Charlotte held onto my arm, trying to steady me. Her eyes flickered with hesitation. You've had way too much. She glanced at the others, subtly motioning for them to head out first. I didn't reply. Just stared at her, quiet and steady. Charlotte's breathing hitched slightly. She turned her face away. After she helped me into the car, she started to get out. But I instinctively reached out and grabbed her wrist. She stumbled, falling forward, right into my lap. Our lips brushed, soft and quick, barely a second long. But it happened. Charlotte froze. Then shot up like she'd been shocked, heart pounding, face flushed. She looked at me, half asleep, half aware, and bit her lower lip. Then, without a word, she took me home. The next morning, I opened my eyes and stared blankly at the ceiling. It took a while for the haze of the hangover to lift. I rubbed my temples and slowly sat up, head still pounding. As I reached out to steady myself, my fingers brushed against something soft. I froze. Turning my head, I saw her, and went completely still. Charlotte lay next to me, completely naked under the covers. There were faint tear streaks at the corners of her eyes. I bolted upright, only to realize I was just as undressed. There was no need to ask what had happened. It was obvious. Charlotte had been awake for a while. She'd been watching, waiting to see my reaction. When she saw how tense I was, she nearly laughed, but managed to suppress it. Instead, she slowly opened her eyes, pretending to just wake up. "You're up," she said softly. My voice was strained. "Did we, last night?" "I wanted it," she said, cutting me off. Her face flushed. I took my clothes off. "I made that choice. I wanted to be with you." Even though the truth had already hit me, hearing her say it out loud still stung. "I'm sorry," I said, voice low. "I drank too much, I shouldn't have." "It's okay," she said, barely above a whisper. "I told you, I chose this." Charlotte lifted her eyes and looked straight at me. "I like you. So when you were on top of me, I didn't want to stop you. I wanted to give myself to you." I stared at her, stunned. I couldn't remember any of it. Nothing from the night before. But the evidence was right there, two bodies, bare, tangled in the same bed. There was no denying what had happened. I'd like to believe I could have resisted if I'd been sober. But I couldn't pretend I was above human impulse. When I didn't respond, Charlotte hesitated. Her voice dropped. "Are you mad at me?" "Mad?" I shook my head. "No. I feel like I owe you an apology." "You don't," she said gently. "I don't regret it." She got up and started getting dressed. Calm. Collected. "I'll make breakfast." "You don't have to." I started to get up, but didn't notice the stool near the bed. My foot caught it, and I lost balance, tumbling forward. Charlotte gasped and rushed to catch me. We crashed to the floor in a heap. I sat up quickly, shaken but fine. Charlotte, though, was curled on the floor, her face suddenly pale. Her jaw clenched tight in pain. "Charlotte? Are you okay?" I tried to help her up, but the moment I touched her, she let out a low, pained groan. I didn't wait. I grabbed my phone and called for an ambulance. In the ambulance, Charlotte was surprisingly calm. "Come on, I'm fine," she said with a weak smile. I couldn't even fake a laugh. All I could do was hold her hand gently. When we arrived at the hospital, a familiar figure caught my eye. Julian. He was pacing near the entrance, phone pressed to his ear, practically yelling. "What the hell do you mean? I know I shouldn't have looked through your things, but why the hell did you schedule an abortion? You're really gonna do this to me, Vanessa?" Vanessa. That explained everything. They'd clearly had a falling out. I had no interest in getting involved. I kept my head down and followed the medics. But Julian spotted me. "Aaron." He stormed toward me. "Stop right there." Chapter 29. I turned slowly, my expression flat. What do you want? His jaw tightened, eyes full of rage and something uglier, entitlement. You already divorced Vanessa. Why are you still messing with her? I raised an eyebrow. The arrogance was unbelievable. I don't have time to mess with anyone. I tried to walk away, but he kept coming, voice rising. If it wasn't for you, why would she abort our child? That baby was ours. It was the proof of our love. And because of you, it won't even get a chance to be born. He screamed like a man betrayed, like I was the one who had ruined their perfect life. People around us started to stare. Whisper. Glare. I hadn't wanted to make a scene. But if he was going to force one, then fine. You knew she was married when you got involved with her, right? Even if you didn't at first, you've had 2 years to figure it out. And instead of walking away, you kept going. You let it happen. You enjoyed it. You got her pregnant. So tell me, what right do you have to come at me? You knocked up my ex-wife, and now I'm the one who owes you something? Now it was Julian's turn to get hit with the judgment. The crowd flipped instantly. Wow. Homewrecker with an attitude. Talking about true love like he didn't destroy someone else's marriage. Men like him are the reason people don't trust anyone anymore. Julian's face went pale. He couldn't even form a comeback. And honestly, I wasn't trying to stand on some moral high ground. This wasn't about righteousness. It was about facts. Vanessa had money. Looks. Power. It wasn't hard for her to wrap someone like Julian around her finger. In a way, he was just another one of her victims. I hadn't planned on tearing him down, but he forced the confrontation. And now, he was drowning in it. The crowd kept growing. I turned, ready to leave. But Julian wasn't done. This is all your fault. If I'd met her first, she would have been mine. I almost laughed out loud. It was pathetic. So pathetic I couldn't even come up with a response. I took a step forward. Julian lunged. He grabbed my arm, crazed and shaking. You're not going anywhere. You call Vanessa right now. Tell her to marry me. Tell her not to kill our baby, or I'll never stop coming after you. I yanked my arm, but he wouldn't let go. My patience snapped. Let go. Now. Never. His face twisted. You call her, or we stay here all day. You're insane, I muttered. And then I kicked him, hard, in the gut. He doubled over, wheezing. I stepped in close and lowered my voice. One more stunt like this, and I call the cops. You really think Vanessa will marry someone with a criminal record? I wasn't bluffing. A woman like her, with her status? No way she'd attach herself to someone with a mugshot. Julian froze. He stood there, trembling. Then, after what felt like forever, he looked up, his face broken, desperate. Please, for the baby. Just once. Help me. I swear, I'll never come near you again. I said nothing. I just turned and walked away. The crowd lost interest quickly. After a few parting insults, they scattered. Julian stood frozen in place, visibly rattled. For all his outrage over the baby, what really scared him was losing Vanessa, the woman funding his lifestyle. He'd grown too used to luxury. Going back to normal wasn't something he could handle. Back at the hospital, Charlotte had already been moved to her room. The moment she saw me, she picked up on the shift in my expression. What happened? I forced a smile. Nothing important. I held up the breakfast bag. Something, at least. She hadn't eaten all morning. You want me to feed you? What do you think? Charlotte raised her arm in a fresh cast. You're committed now. Gotta see it through. I shrugged and pulled up a chair. Still, it felt awkward. Especially when she clamped down on the chopsticks with her teeth and wouldn't let go. If you keep that up, I'm done feeding you. I tried to sound stern. She immediately let go and pouted. Sorry. I just wanted to lighten the mood. I paused, guilt hitting me like a wave. Charlotte got hurt because of me. Feeding her shouldn't feel like a chore. Acting shy about it? Not exactly manly. My bad, I muttered. You didn't deserve this. But she didn't respond right away. She just looked at me, long and quiet. Do you not like me? Her voice trembled, and her eyes glistened. It was the first time I'd ever seen her look so unsure of herself. I didn't know what to say. But I knew this, saying anything cruel right now would make me a coward. When I hesitated, she blinked back her tears and forced a smile. It's okay. Liking you is my choice. You don't have to feel responsible for that. The smile was warm, bright even, but it hit like a knife. I looked away, hands suddenly unsteady. Eat up, I said, quietly. It's getting cold. Charlotte nodded, obedient and quiet. But in her mind, she was already planning. This mule of a man? She was going to win him over, one way or another. The doctor said Charlotte needed a few days of observation. Naturally, I stayed as her attendant. The only issue was sleep. There was a narrow cot in the room, but I was way too tall to fit comfortably. Charlotte noticed and looked concerned. You can take the bed. I'll sleep on the cot. No way. Letting the patient sleep on the cot while I took the bed? That was completely backward. You can't keep doing this, she said. It's bad for your back. She bit her lip. Maybe you should go home at night and just come back during the day. I shook my head immediately. I'm not leaving you alone here. Then. She scooted over and patted the space next to her. Sleep here? Her cheeks turned a deep shade of red. She looked pale, sick, vulnerable, and still managed to be devastating. But her eyes were serious. No jokes, no games. I don't think that's a good idea. Charlotte pouted. Pick one. Go home, or sleep next to me. I'll take the cot. Nope. That's not an option. I sighed, cornered. And finally, nodded. The hospital bed was definitely wider than the cot. But not that wide. Not wide enough for two adults. The moment I lay down, we were practically pressed up against each other. Instinctively, I tried to shift away. Charlotte giggled behind her hand. If you move any farther, you're gonna fall off. My spine went stiff. I cleared my throat. Nah, it's fine. The bed's, pretty roomy. It wasn't. Not even close. I was half dangling off the edge. Then, out of nowhere, Charlotte reached over with her uninjured arm and tugged me closer. Just sleep here. It's not like we haven't before. Her voice had a teasing lilt, light and playful, but my heartbeat immediately picked up speed. Still, I didn't want her hurting herself again, so I relented and shifted inward. The lights went out. In the dark, all we could hear was each other's breathing. Suddenly, she took my hand, pulled it under her head like a pillow, and murmured, "Okay. Now sleep." I stayed frozen in place, body stiff as a board, too afraid to move in case I bumped her cast. Eventually though, sleep won out. When morning came, I woke with a faint itch tickling my nose. Still half asleep, I scratched at it lazily. But the itch came back, along with a faint giggle. I cracked an eye open. Charlotte stood beside the bed, grinning, twirling a lock of her hair between her fingers and brushing it against my face. The moment I caught her, she dropped the hair like she'd been caught red-handed, suddenly looking very interested in the floor. I sat up groggily, rubbing my eyes. Sorry. For what? She said, bright and unfazed. Last night, I mean. She shook her head, still smiling. No need to apologize. Honestly, I should be thanking you. I haven't slept that well in a long time. My cheeks went warm. I cleared my throat and didn't reply. Charlotte laughed. I bailed. I practically fled the room, heading downstairs to grab breakfast before I embarrassed myself any more. Time at the hospital passed quickly. We didn't talk much, just the occasional conversation over meals. The rest of the time, Charlotte kept herself busy with her phone, playing mobile games one-handed like it was nothing. I couldn't help but be impressed. Playing games like that, with only one hand? That was some serious gamer energy. That night, Charlotte hit me with a curveball. I want to take a shower. I blinked at her, completely unprepared. Her arm was still in a cast, there was no way she could wash herself. And I couldn't just let her go in alone, but helping her? This wasn't like helping her eat or fixing her sleeves. This was a shower. As in, no clothes. She batted her lashes at me, clearly messing with me. Can you help me? I nearly said no on instinct. This was dangerous territory. But before I could get the words out, she added, come on, don't be shy. It's not like you haven't seen it before. My face went hot. Against my better judgment. I nodded. In the bathroom, I was stiff and awkward, hovering like I didn't know what to do with my hands. But this mess was mine to clean up, literally. Help me take it off, she said, nodding toward her hospital gown. I took a slow, deep breath, then carefully undid the buttons. I tried not to stare. Really, I did. But Charlotte's body was stunning. Smooth curves, toned waist, flawless skin. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. I forced my gaze away. She caught me anyway, mischief dancing in her eyes. But when it came time for the last layer, her bra, she hesitated. A flicker of real bashfulness crossed her face. I'll handle the rest, she said quickly. Wait outside. I didn't need to be told twice. I was out the door in a flash, heart pounding in my chest. Behind me, the sound of running water echoed through the door. I rubbed my temples, trying to get it together. She was so casual about it, and here I was, completely thrown. A few minutes later, her voice rang out from the bathroom. Hey! I accidentally soaked my gown. Can you grab me a dry one? Sure, I'll leave it by the door. When I returned with the clean gown, I hesitated. How was I supposed to give it to her? Before I could decide, the door cracked open just enough for a hand, damp and pale, to reach out. Hand it over. I stepped closer, eyes averted. But for the briefest second, I caught a glimpse through the gap. White skin. Steam curling in the air. Eyes up, champ, Charlotte teased. Or have you seen enough? Flustered, I shoved the gown into her hand and turned away. She emerged a moment later, loosely wrapped in the fresh hospital robe, the front slightly open. Can you button me up? She asked innocently. I stepped forward, fumbling with the buttons, doing everything I could not to look there. Charlotte, of course, couldn't resist. Seriously, Aaron? You're blushing? What are you, 12? I shot her a look. What does age have to do with it? She grinned. You've already seen everything. Why get shy now? Her grin turned wicked. I mean, unless you're mad about seeing it but not being able to touch. That hit a nerve. Frustrated, I muttered, you're not wrong. Charlotte blinked, then, boldly, took a step closer. Wanna touch? My breath caught. Of course I didn't move. But she leaned in anyway, and before I could dodge or speak, the back of my hand brushed against the soft swell of her chest. Like touching fire. I jerked back instantly. She looked disappointed. "You're divorced now," she said softly. "Why won't you even consider being with me?" It just happened." Before I could finish, she stepped up, stood on her toes, and kissed me. I froze. I should have pulled away. But her lips were cool, tender. Her kiss, desperate and full of longing. "Don't push me away again," she whispered against my mouth. "I don't want to miss my chance this time." My brain was scrambled. And when she asked, "Be mine?" I found myself nodding before I even realized it. And honestly, I didn't regret it. In that moment, all I felt was relief. Relief that even after everything, after the wreckage of a broken marriage, I could still say yes to someone. I hadn't lost the ability to love. Time passed like water slipping through fingers. Since the divorce, Vanessa never showed up again. And slowly, I stopped thinking about her. Things with Charlotte moved quickly. She was a good woman. She didn't push for titles or promises. She just stayed, quiet, steady, warm. That kind of calm, consistent presence grounded me more than any whirlwind romance ever could. We started traveling together, visiting places I'd never seen before. Just the two of us, soaking in the world, enjoying what it felt like to fall in love again, this time without all the weight. While we were planning our next trip, miles away, Vanessa sat alone in her office, flipping through documents under the bright afternoon sun. The light hit her face, but it couldn't warm the shadow behind her eyes. A knock came at the door. "Miss Sterling," her assistant whispered, "we've found a few candidates that match your criteria. Bring them in." She didn't even look up. The assistant set the files down and stepped aside, keeping quiet. Everyone knew this boss's moods were unpredictable. Her last assistant had been fired without warning, and blacklisted. It had been brutal. Vanessa thumbed through the profiles but looked bored. Disinterested. She reached for a cigarette. Once upon a time, she hated smoking. Now, she couldn't go a day without it. Somewhere along the way, she'd picked up the habit, and it was the only thing that dulled the ache inside her. Since the divorce, she'd spiraled into a kind of hollow numbness. In the early days, she didn't try to contact me. Instead, she went looking for someone else, someone who resembled me. Same age. Same look. People around her thought she just couldn't accept reality, that she was trying to find a stand-in to soothe the loneliness. But no matter how close the match, she never let anyone in. It wasn't about moving on. It was about passing time. Late nights turned into insomnia. Her moods grew erratic, even when she was sober. She was up to 2 packs a day. Friends tried to intervene. She didn't listen. She even caught herself wondering, if I died, would Aaron come to my funeral? One friend threatened to call me. She stopped them. She knew the truth too well. This mess? It was all her own doing. If she hadn't made the choices she did, maybe things would have ended differently. People say time heals. But on Christmas Day, exactly 1 year later, Vanessa walked into the house I used to live in for the first time. By her order, the place had been cleaned regularly. Not a picture frame out of place. Not a speck of dust. It looked as if I'd never left. She picked up a broom and started to clean it herself. Then the doorbell rang. Mail. She didn't pay it much attention, until she saw the name on the envelope. Her pupils contracted slightly. Inside was a single photo and one short note. She stood there frozen, as if every ounce of strength had drained from her body. The housekeeper appeared, but paused when she saw Vanessa rooted to the spot. Finally, Vanessa stirred. The housekeeper approached gently. "Miss Sterling, are you all right?" Vanessa said nothing at first. Then, tenderly, like it was something fragile, she folded up the letter and photo, as if scared to tear them. The photo drooped slightly in her hands, giving the housekeeper a glimpse of its contents. Aaron and Charlotte. Dressed in matching couple outfits, standing close beneath fireworks, spring warmth blooming in the background. The housekeeper's heart sank. She had heard the stories. Everyone had. Vanessa, however, seemed strangely calm. He looks happy. That girl, she really loves him. They're getting married. It wasn't clear if she was explaining this to someone else, or reminding herself. He's doing well. He doesn't need me anymore. It had been a year. She'd thought she was finally over him. But now? Like a puppet with her strings cut, Vanessa collapsed onto the couch, gripping the edge of the table just to stay upright. She stared at the photo. Tried to smile. Failed. Her hand lifted to her face, shielding it as her shoulders began to shake. The housekeeper slipped away quietly. Vanessa sat in silence for a long time. Time itself felt warped, hazy. In a dreamlike daze, she imagined Aaron walking through the door with that soft smile he used to wear. She reached out. Only to find nothing. Just air. Just the truth. The note had been simple. Stop punishing yourself. Live well. Merry Christmas. No signature. But she didn't need one. At some point, she picked up a pen and scrawled her reply. Congratulations on your wedding, Aaron.